happy to announce the launch of our new logo. We have evolved since our incorporation in 1997, and it is time to refresh our new look to reflect who we are today. Before I reveal our new look, however, walk with me while I take you through our journey of the last 25 years. Trust Bank was incorporated on July 3rd, 1997 and began operations on October 1st, 1997. Following the collapse of the parent company of its predecessor, Meridian, the CBG stepped in and recapitalized the bank and held the shares in trust, thus the name Trust Bank. In 1999, the first investors who responded So, we remain true to who we have always been. As we look forward to greater achievements, we are rebranding to reflect who we are today and the future that we inspire. Our new logo has been designed to visually demonstrate our Gambian heritage and the sophisticated nature of the bank. We are moving away from the navy and gold-colored parallelogram-shaped logo to our baobab tree with a rising sun in the background. The striking outline of a baobab tree at sunrise is a familiar sight to anyone who has spent time in the Gambia. Our new logo and visual identity are inspired by our core values and spirit of being a pioneer in providing a unique banking experience. It is a completely new look that better matches the transformation we have made as a company. But we remain your Trust Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to present to you our new logo and corporate identity.
Airport Residency Estate is a gated community located in Old Yundum, proudly developed by Swami India, perfect for all looking for a quiet life with luxury amenities within an enclosed setting. When talking about the benefits of living in a gated community, Safety and security is top on the list. They allow extra privacy, take away the hustle of unwelcome solicitors, and create a safe haven for children to play in a trusted environment without traffic or speedy vehicles. A great sense of community develops through the meeting at a controlled communal leisure facilities, offering an integrated lifestyle. A green environment and well-managed communal areas are keys to higher home standards, elevated quality of life, and better property value, should you consider home reinvestment in the future. Added to all is the location, just next to the airport and reconstructed main road, yet tucked in the tranquility of nature. Our purpose is one, your satisfaction. Contact us. Let us help you build your dream home in the Gambia.
Hello and welcome to this special show. Today is the last Thursday of 2023 and there isn't a better panel than what the people I have here. Mustapha Darboe of Malagen, Dr. Gajigo, Economist and formerly ADB, and of course our lawyer Abdoulie Fatty. Welcome to this special show.
Thank you.
Why do I have only men here? I should have, right? But I represent the women, right? Of course, today we will look at the major stories of 2023. We will look at the economy, inflation, of course, our budget. Dr. Gajigo have been really looking at that for us. Actually, I had a call from the Ministry of Finance after your last piece, and they were like, there's no tax increase. Why is he saying? I'm like, if you really want to address that, I think you should come on the show with Dr. Gajigo, and I hope by next year they will be available to do that. But we will also look at political issues and, of course, landmark cases that happened in 2023. But let's start with politics, Mustapha. It seems like the transfer window has opened. In December, what we have seen is the NPP trying to really get the big wigs of the UDP. The UDP campaign manager, Mamadou Sabali, last week moved to the NPP, and it became, a lot of people thought it was a surprising move because obviously because of his critical voice that he has always provided as an opposition, and a lot of people were surprised by the move. I mean, some of us knew about it a couple of weeks before that, but yes, that happened. Also, the NPP were trying to tap the UDP chairman in Brufut, and I think we got a lot of heat from that, because I did interview the chairman, Bajamba Bojang, and I aired that. And the NPP even had to issue a statement against the Kerr Fatou, because they, according to them, we recorded Bajamba without his consent. I don't know who told them that. Actually, I was supposed to have Bajamba 2 days ago interview him, because we saw that his consent, and I said it on our statement. I don't know why the NPP was interested in that, because the person that we interviewed is from the UDP. Number one, he's not a member of the MPP, and obviously he has also given us his consent. But I do understand politicians sometimes, when they get disappointments, they will do certain things. But this has nothing to do with us. We were just doing our job. But let's look at what happened, Dr. Gajigo. When you see all these movements from political parties, especially from the opposition, a lot of people say, even the president said, UDP basically is the only political opposition that is really making noise now. The others are doing their thing, but you don't see them speaking a lot. Now, if we see people that are really critical, like Mahmoud Sabali moving to the incumbent, what does that say for our political landscape?
It doesn't say, I think, something very positive about the political landscape. I think what transpired is, if anything, is what has turned off a lot of people about politics. When people think about politics, when people are telling people don't enter politics, it's these sort of activities, these sort of behaviors we are seeing where it's very opportunistic, things that are very transactional in nature, as opposed to individuals who are driven or motivated by what is in the person's interest. So for me, I don't think what happened is anything is a fundamental change. I don't think it's going to shake the political landscape significantly. If I understand correctly, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there was a time shortly after Barrow came to power when Mahmoud Sabali was a member of declared his support for the Barrow youth movement. There was a time that he did. At some point, he went and left the party to join UDP. And at some very quickly, we saw him rose to the highest level of UDP. And then now we've seen him leave UDP back to Barrow's party. So again, now if we are thinking about people who have particular ideals and principles and this sort of whiplash movement across cross-carpeting back and forth is not something you should be seeing. If people have particular goals and ideas, they are people who are motivated, because what has changed between Barrow of last year and Barrow of this year? Barrow's program, or NPP's program, is essentially the same what it is this year and last year. The same thing for UDP. There has been no fundamental shift in the policies, in the platforms of these political parties. So what would motivate somebody at the highest level of one political party to switch from one to another here, apart from individual, opportunistic and transactional things?
If you think your party is not able to win, and this is a ruling government, and somebody like Mahmoud Sabali, who has been Secretary General, Director of Budget, he worked at the what's the name, Central Bank. He could add something. I mean, instead of just criticizing, maybe let me join them. If you cannot beat the system, join the system and help. Couldn't that be an excuse, also something that you could look at and say, that's a positive move? Wouldn't you think so?
A lot of things are possible. Obviously, you could look at, you could say that, but the question becomes, why would that calculus come into play this year? Why not the year before? Why not earlier? So for me, I think, yeah, you could try to give the benefit of the doubt, but I think one would be too generous, and I don't think it is consistent with the facts to see that. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, this sort of move between these two parties says a lot about both parties, and it's not, it doesn't say something very positive about the state of both of these major parties we have right now.
Right now, Mustapha, when I mean, we knew about this some time ago, and according to what we were told, in fact, the day before this news broke, I spoke to Mahmoud Sabali, and I also knew the story. We didn't want to put it out because, number one, he's my brother, but number two, because he was speaking to us, we wanted to give him time to deal with what he was dealing with. But what we got is that, they were talking to him because they really wanted to lift his ban. I was an advocate of lifting Mahmoud Sabali's ban, because for me it was like, I remember hosting his wife when one time he was arrested, and I got emotional because for me this is the issue. All of these people who are implicated in the Giant Commission, they are working inside in the government. and you are telling this person you cannot work in government, you cannot even be an elected official, and all because there were political motivations. And sometimes when somebody is pushed to a certain corner, they will just have to do what they can do to help their families. And what we got was this: they were trying to, number one, lift the ban. I mean, the ban that was imposed on him. The president was going to pardon him. Obviously, the Commission of Inquiry bill that was passed, the president has assented. We were told on the 31st they will pardon him and some other people like Joguba and others. That's what we were told. But also, according to what we were told, he was going to get employment. Do you think, number one, for me, this is the motivation. If somebody is not part of your party, they don't get to benefit from all of these things. What does that say about our governance system? Because you could see maybe this man didn't want to join you, but because he's going to get all of these things. I mean, at the end of the day, at some point he's going to say, look, I need to feed my family. I have to do this. If you look at it from that angle, will you blame Sabally or the government? Because it seems like you're pushing the guy to a certain level. It's either you join me or I'm going to strangle you. We have seen that even in the media, or other people trying to cut them off from sponsorships and other stuff, just because you want them to be somebody who's going to praising you. It seems like it's working at certain levels. What's your opinion regarding that aspect?
Well, I think that to a greater degree, what one does depends largely on the character of the individual.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also say, how tough is it to become a journalist? You've come under pressure. In some cases, you've been denied advertisement.
Yeah.
And there have been sponsorship deals that you were threatened were going to be cut.
Yeah,
but you didn't close Kerr Fatou.
No, I didn't. No.
Or make it NPP borrow you to movement by media. And you could say that for a lot of media houses or journalists, or why didn't, so for example, so many would tell you when Hussaini became the leader of the UDP, he had shown a drastic drop in the number of cases he gets. True or not, but this was out in the public space. Yes. Yeah. So you have a lot of people who would tell you, particularly also those who are dependent on government consultancy. You see them flip-flopping and all of that. I have always said, the Gambian is very vindictive. That's something we have not really come to terms with. This Gambian exceptionalism is silly. We're not kind people. It's a zero-sum game for most of us. It's mine, I have to take it, and they must lose, and losing means losing everything. So they apply the same thing in politics. Jammeh has done that here, and he stabbed people. And but the question now is, what do you believe in? You don't do something you don't believe because someone has denied you a certain opportunity. It's a private sector. He's not working in government. I don't work in government. He doesn't work in government. But he doesn't leave what he's doing. Aside from being an economist and a consultant, he's a farmer too. I'm a journalist. He's a lawyer. We do what we do. So I don't think what Sabally did is determined by the fact that they denied him jobs. And a matter of fact, what Sabally is earning a living. He's employed in the UDP. They gave him money. They gave him cars, and I suppose they also fuel the car and they give him money.
I don't think the UDP would pay him salary.
No, but all of these people get benefit from UDP donors. It's not all these influential individuals in the party. They get money here and there. And if he does not get paid, that's the business of the UDP. UDP should have had a structured system where certain individuals and certain levels should be remunerated. Now, but people don't make decisions because, and especially decisions that goes against fundamental principles they hold, because somebody somewhere is closing in certain opportunities they are supposed to access. That's one thing. And the second thing is, I mean, if you are to look at the motivations of individuals, and probably in Sabali's case, we probably may read some of the statements he had put out. One of the things he said was that he is going to go around, campaign starts now, and he's going to travel the Gambia to get people endear to Barrow. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Barrow does not face a mandate issue right now. But Barrow faces are fundamental chronic deficiencies from within our governance. It's corruption, it's institutional inefficiencies, it's lack of institutional reform, the feet dragging on certain things like implementation of Jane Commission recommendations, implementation of including TRRC recommendations. So if you have come to help Barrow, you should make Barrow efficient. We're not going to elections. Election is in 3 years. So that tells you, like Gajigo is saying, a lot of this is it's a sentimental decision, but it also speaks to the political environment also. I mean, the fact that we are talking about, we sit here and talk about Sabali in a certain light. I mean, Jane Commission, for example, and the recommendations on Sabali, it's not an accident. And it didn't also happen in a vacuum. And so, because the Jane Commission banned Alaji Sise, or probably recommended this ban and is working, or recommended Noha Toure's ban and they're working, recommended Sabali's ban and is working. It's not working, does not necessarily mean that Sabali should be working. Only what we should call for.
But the selective justice.
Exactly. So what we should call for is not to work back on the good that has been done, which is the implementation of the recommendation, as in Sabali's case, but to advocate for the implementation of the recommendation on others. So, for example, advocate for the wrong, advocate against the wrong, and not advocate for working back on the good that had happened. And in the case, the implementation of Jane Commission's recommendation against Sabali was based on evidence. So the fact that the same does not apply to others, every person should just be advocating for others also orders for the same recommendation to be implemented on others as well. So the selective justice for me is not it's not so much as against Sabali, but as in, because justice just needs to be applied evenly across the board.
Justice needs to evenly apply, and that brings to my next question. I know Sabali is your client, and we don't want to really directly answer. We don't want to bring his question directly to you, but generally, for example, when the president was on tour at the Meet the People, so he talked about how civil servants who we know the general orders say they cannot be active in politics. But the president say, for example, if you go to somebody's office and they tell you, natural tale, because that means those people are opposition, and they know all of these people, and they will take them out of the system. And what we see is government using state powers and employment and all of these things to lure people into their party. And when you do that, and have no regards for our laws, because this is part of the civil general orders. Dr. Cisse is working at the University of the Gambia, and so many lecturers. I remember Dr. S.I. Jai and some other people even petitioning this, saying Jiba and others saying he should not be at the university because he's actively in politics. But because he's backing the president, he is there. And obviously, the president also saying that those who are telling people they don't belong to NPP, they are natural, that means they are not NPP, they are opposition, they should write their names and they will be removed from office. That statement, when it came out, we discussed it here, but I don't see anybody making noise out of that. That is one of the worst statements any leader can say, especially knowing our law says civil servants cannot. Now, tapping Sabali and Dr. Cisse and seeing what has happened in Rufut, trying to get the Alcalo, the UDP chairman, to come into, because they want to make him a safer. And all of these things, what does this say about government respecting the laws of the land? If the state is supposed to be the one who help in ensuring that everybody is law abiding, but they are the ones flouting the laws themselves, what does that say?
So, for example, see, the rule of law is the cornerstone of any democracy, and a key component of the rule of law is the presumption or the principle that there has to be equality in the application and the enforcement of law. So in simple terms, means everyone, regardless of their status, is equal before the law. That the law is colorblind, or the law is blind in terms of your wealth, your status, or which hierarchy you occupy in politics. So that there is no arbitrary or unfair or unjust application of the law. So in terms of Sabally, this time last year he was in custody.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, 3 days ago, it was the 25th. I was here with his wife.
Yeah.
The interview was a very moving interview. He was kept for about 9-10 days and not charged by the state. So, for example, you know, I'm not going to, like you said, obviously I'm not going to go into individual because I owe Sabally, you know, professional privilege.
Yeah.
But in terms of the general discussions about the application of the law, in March 2022, when Sabally submitted his documents for nomination to contest as MP at the National Assembly for the Brikama North or Busumbala constituency, the IEC rejected his nomination on the basis that there is an adverse finding against him, the Jani Commission. And the Constitution says that if there is an adverse finding against you, unless that has been set aside by a court, or it is stayed, that means you are ineligible, you know, and there are other conditions as well. So the IEC rejected his nomination, but he did not satisfy the constitutional as well as the Elections Act requirements to contest as MP. I represented him in that matter. We challenged the matter at the High Court. The High Court agreed with the decision of the IEC, and said, you know, there was a commission that was properly constituted, and it made adverse findings against him, and therefore there was no evidence presented before the court but that had been stayed or set aside. The appeal is still before the court. It's just that because things take an awfully long time in this country, there is an appeal, and I represented in that appeal. I have confidence in the appeal in general. It's particularly setting grounds of appeal because it is our belief that some of the adverse findings made against Sabally are not supported by adequate evidence disclosed in terms of evidence at the commission. But that's another time. But for the purposes of our discussion today, so for example, if this administration goes ahead and for example pardon Sabally in terms of lifting that ban, they can do that, you know, Gazette and other things. If they were to do that, but the same state a year and a half ago intervened to prevent him contesting in elections. So we can safely therefore say that the motivation and the appetite to now lift the ban is because of political benefit to this administration. That means now there's no longer a strict application of that equality before the law in fairness and across the whole spectrum. What that does is undermine the people's faith and confidence in the application. See, with these sort of things, it is good for courts to deal with. If the Court of Appeal turns around and say, we uphold the decision of the Janneh Commission, or the appeal succeeds on certain parts, or believe that the lifetime ban or 10 ban on the other things is manifestly unjust or unfair, and bring something like that. See, sometimes all of that is within the operation of the rule of law. You're still giving sanctity to the supremacy of this principle of the rule of law in a democracy. But when politicians take it upon themselves for political expediency to interfere, and particularly for Sabally, it's even more painful for me as his counsel, because there were people in the administration, Mamburin Jai, the chief of protocol, and other individuals as well, equally implicated by the same Janneh Commission. They were completely disregarded. And we understand that state institutions were deliberately involved in making sure that the IEC were aware before Sabally's nomination that there was this adverse finding against him, and therefore they ought to reject. And I'm guessing it's going to be the same institutions that are now going to be involved in regularizing the process of lifting the ban. So it shows you the extreme involvements in terms of one, doing something that is dirty, and the laundering that afterwards. So what it does is that there is selective justice, and commissions of inquiry are very, very important institutions in terms of what they do. So when we begin to do this kind of stuff, and part of me as well is, and somebody who is intimately involved with the TRRC and the post-TRRC justice mechanisms as well. This is away from Sabally, but this is in terms of, so if General Sol Baji or some of the other individuals do certain stuff, does that mean, again, then that Sol Baji is going to be excused, or some other individuals as well who are seriously and severely implicated by the TRRC report? These are serious questions.
And at some point, Dr. Gajigo, it might look like we might all have to go back to the President Trump just to get the good favors. I might just have to change my editorial policies and get back all my sponsorships, because at some point, the objective here is to strangle you. To strangle you to the point that you cannot even breathe. If you can, just like what happened in the U.S. when the police officer put his knee on chokehold on this guy, and he could not breathe. Yeah. If you cannot breathe, you're going to die. And it seems like this is the objective. Janneh did it. We saw it with this guy, Alaji Conte-Dabanani. We saw it. We saw it with Sabally. We saw it with other people that we cannot even mention. At some point, though, this is something that we need to speak about now. Because, for me, at some point, I just like, just forget it. We are not going to suffer. We will be able to pay ourselves and others. But the reason why I decided to speak about it is for the world to know. It's not about, somebody will say, oh, Corona. No. It's just making sure people know this is happening. And if it can happen to somebody like me, it can happen to the country. Now it happened to Sabally. Who is going to be next? We have seen people, I can tell you, advocates, who were, at this point, you cannot even get people on panel. So they'll tell you, there was this particular individual who was supposed to be on a panel. This was an international panel that he was supposed to be on. And one of the ministers called to say he was not going to share the panel with him. And from that day, that group never engaged him in any of their programs. And that person now would not even speak, because they have to fit their time. It seems like this is the new way that the government is doing. This is their new tactics of getting people on their side. It's either you are with us or we strangle you, you don't get anything. I mean, some people can sustain it, but not everybody can. And this is going to be bad for our democracy, and it's going to affect us politically. At some point, we will have no opposition. Well, maybe Darboe and Halifa alone, and they will be there, because those people will not move.
Right. No, I mean, it's a very, very serious matter. This is, when you have a government that is only, that has the sole objective of staying in power at any cost. Yeah.
Everybody's telling me the sound is low. You need to fix this, please. Yeah, go ahead.
There is almost no limit in terms of activity. Obviously, there are some obvious limits here. I don't expect Barrow's government to engage in some of the drastic actions that Jammeh's regime did. But still, I mean, that shouldn't be the bar we are aiming to be over. We are in a democracy. We voted a dictatorship out. We expected serious reforms. And unfortunately, what we have experienced, what we have seen, as both of these gentlemen have pointed out, is very far from what we were expecting. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the case that they want to entice, force do it in a benign way as much as possible. But if that fails, try to, increase the pressure. Yeah. Now, this is where there is going to be a difference between people that really have principles versus those that don't. Yeah. There will be some people, it's not even going to take a lot of pressure to get them to change. There are some, it will take a little bit more, and then they will change. I think this is where we'll have to, really, ask ourselves, whatever, as a Gambian citizen, if you are talking about the government, criticizing what they are doing, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing it? Are you doing it on principle, or are you doing it just to be noticed, to be offered something better? Or are you just making a noise so that you can be offered something, so that you can be silenced? So I think at the core of it, it also becomes a test of character. Obviously, it shouldn't have come to this, but here we are. This is the situation we are facing, where this government would stop at nothing to try to get people to join their party and make pronouncements that are completely counter to what a democratic government should be doing, a government that is focused on development of the country as opposed to perpetuating one party's rule. So what we are seeing is troubling. But at the end of the day, I doubt everybody will go. I mean, you haven't gone, thankfully. That's why we are still here.
You don't know. I might be back soon.
You are still here. And there will be many people who will continue to be here. Of course, we will see more and more people slowly making the jump, because at the end of the day, not everyone is criticizing from the right, their criticisms, and not everyone's criticisms are motivated by the right reason. Yeah. So if that core character is missing, then it's not going to take much to entice them away. But I think the challenge is nothing in life should be entered into with the expectation that it's going to be easy. What matters is the objective, and then determine how strong that objective is for you. Then you try to basically stay the course and do what is right. And I think, given what we are seeing, the reasons for criticizing this government, they are increasing rather than decreasing.
Talking about increasing rather than decreasing, the anti-corruption bill which has been passed. This is something that all of you have been crying for. Now we have that. Will the coming of the anti-corruption bill help curb corruption in our system? Let's start with you first. The anti-corruption bill. I mean,
Okay.
you already born party, right?
No, I'm not a fan of anti-corruption commission. I just don't think that it will change anything.
Really?
No, yeah. I don't think so. I think that if anything, we have laws in the Gambia. Laws don't change anything. We have to have people with values and principles to change things, not laws. The arrest of Sabali you are talking about was illegal.
Yes.
The arrest of Bora is illegal. There is no wrong thing happening in the Gambia that's not illegal. It's not there. But all the wrong things are happening. Theft is illegal, with or without anti-corruption commission. Conditioning people to join your politics is illegal. Yeah. So anti-corruption commission will not come to implement itself. People with values and principles will implement it. There is this fun fact. I was having a chat with someone, and there was a particular minister who he told me had expressed a sentiment in him that one time he was asking, who do you think we are going to appoint at the Anti-Corruption Commission? It was a joke people were throwing around. I mean, and it's it's as funny as a heart attack, you know. I mean,
Mustapha,
if we are thinking about who are we going to appoint as an anti-corruption commission, then it tells you you've got to a point of complete social decadence, because we have a country of 2 million people, and now we have to worry about starving an institution with less than 100 people, right? I mean, that's social decadence. So that's, I mean, without exaggerating, that's the level we are. So, and also they've passed an anti-corruption commission where even prosecution will be tough, because anti-corruption commission without the clause there on unexplained wealth makes prosecutions a little bit tougher. Unexplained wealth makes investigation even far easier, and prosecutions far easier than, you know, just we will have to rely on evidence. So we'll have to establish ourselves the source of the wealth. So, for example, if we have an unexplained wealth, I mean, if you have unexplained wealth, we will have to determine how much money you have, how much wealth you have accumulated over a period that you are in the public office, and how much you could have legitimately earned. And now you have to explain now how you acquire these orders. Yeah? So, and there are a lot more issues. I mean, even if you follow the debate in the parliament, you come to see that this society faces some very serious issues, moral issues. And that's going to come into play when we finally establish the Anti-Corruption Commission. And we will also, who are going to be the ones to investigate? Who are going to be the ones to prosecute? Who are going to be the ones to sit over the trial? And those issues, we still have chronic issues. And that aside, you look at also the other institutions of justice that are existent, and what the government has been doing to those. They've been trying to weaken the National Audit Office. You have seen National Audit Office has done audits here objectively. And you've seen comments that came from the Office of the President. Audit opinions are opinion. Mere opinion. Just trying to dismiss their findings. They have been attacking the former Auditor General. Attacking him. They've been attacking very decent people at the National Audit Office who are not Auditor General, because Auditor General does not do audit. He presides over audit institutions, but he does not do audit. So there are young people there, they've been attacking. To a point, they were almost demoralized. I deal with auditors a lot. I talk to auditors a lot, almost all the time. And the same thing has been doing to other institutions of justice in state. I mean, police, Gambia police. I mean, there are hardly any case Gambia of corruption Gambia police had investigated that has not been having issues. I mean, a lot of them. The more recent story we have published about the illegal timber smuggling, where in 2019 the transaction that happened between January to April, the police investigated that, but where is the report? They said nothing happened. Almost all the recent investigations we have done, we fall on the trail of the police. But in all those corruption investigations, they have come out and say nothing happened, or they've covered it up. The passport scandal was investigated by the police. The same thing, Semlex and all those things. The same things comes again and again, and the police. So those are critical institutions that you will have to fix. I mean, personally, I don't think we need an anti-corruption commission. I think that what we need is an office of a special prosecutor. And we have men and women who are appointed under a special division. We can turn the fraud squad into a specialized unit that will investigate corruption cases. But the other issue is that you have Gambia government does not establish these offices. And this we have to know. We have to come to terms with. Our government acts based on donor, to attract donor this, donor that. All this, their eyes are on certain fundings. Even look at what they're doing with the access to information law. You think they established that because they care? They don't They are doing everything to withhold information.
Yes.
Access to information, they established it because donors wanted it established.
Yeah.
This Anti-Corruption Commission, the World Bank and others want it established, and they so desperately want it. So all these things are so. The development in this country has to come from the heart. Our people have to see the need to set up these institutions so that we would put the right, right attitudes to make them work. But look at the way they're treating accountability institutions across the board. Across the board. Look at the attitude of people from the office of the president, to the last man, to the police. You see that this is not what they want. They paying lip service to accountability and transparency, but it's not that. So if the institutional values change, then Anti-Corruption Commission will have an impact.
Will have an impact.
Without that, no.
Dr. Gajigo, I see you agreeing with Mustapha throughout. What's your take on anti-corruption?
No, I mean, I totally agree. I think these are just a bunch of show. Like, let's say if you want to know whether the government is doing something meaningful in agriculture or in education and health, it can be very easy for the government to say, oh, we just passed a new education policy. And then they'll have a whole process where there'll be a inception report. There'll be some sort of event at one of the hotels. Then there'll be a validation workshop, a stakeholder workshop, another validation workshop, and then a ceremony is done at the State House. The president stands before the whole nation and say, "I'm taking education seriously. This is the new education policy. Blah blah blah. It will take us to this level." At the end of the day, what happens in education is not going to be determined by that document. So it's the same thing in this corruption. We have a criminal code. We have a lot of other laws on the book. I doubt there is going to be any new offense that is criminalized as a result of this legislation that previously was illegal. So you need to have, we've had individual cases. Another case story, another example is the fisheries case that they broke. Yeah. A minister was directly implicated in that, but he was in touch. A lower level official was prosecuted. You had the passport scandal. How come the only person who got prosecuted was a driver? When we're talking about the issue of diplomatic passport, communications going from the State House, going to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. If a driver can actually get a passport, diplomatic passport being issued, it means your systems were already broken to begin with. It means if you needed to reform that and have any serious mechanism in place, several people should have lost their jobs, both at the State House and at the very minimum at the State House and at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But if you are really serious, there should be prosecution. The point, we have a lot of questionable deals that happen in security report. How many people were actually investigated and actions taken? Of course, they had to do something about corruption to just give some sort of indication that, yeah, we're doing something. Because as Mustapha pointed out, they're getting a lot of pressure from their development partners to do something about it. Because there is that knowledge out there that it is rampant, it is very destructive. So this is just going to be something they're going to wave in front of everyone, say, oh, we've done something. But at the end of the day, the passage of legislation is nothing but a piece of paper. What matters is the execution. But this can be executed without this law if there is seriousness to it. So I totally agree with him. I think this is just a show. Nobody should get their hopes high that we are going to get a tackling of corruption. If we haven't gotten any serious cases here, questionable deals that have been struck, if there hasn't been any investigation of those, and justice has been passed, I mean, nothing is going to come out of this. So if anything, it is just going to be a whole new cumbersome process where if you ask why certain allegations has been made and nothing has passed, this will just give them an excuse to say, oh, wait for the commission of the Anti-Corruption Commission to take its course, And if that guy is sufficiently connected, the process will take forever.
Yeah, I mean, that leads me to my next question. When I interviewed the president in 2018 or 19, and I said, Mr. President, a lot of people are complaining about the people working in your cabinet, in your office, that are implicated with the Commission of Inquiry. He said, "Fatou, mbatu funding commission or report of Fintita Nimake, I'll say kumofo." And he, based on that, he wanted to wait for the Commission of Inquiry report to come out. And nothing happened, even though when it came out. The TRRC also, we have seen what happened. And up to now, it seems like the international community wanted the TRRC set up. It was set up, we had a lot of revelations. But even look at during by-laws prosecution, the German prosecuting team was saying they were not getting support from the Gambia government. That's why I was surprised when I had the Ministry of Justice issued a statement talking about, I'm like, did you listen to what the prosecuting team was saying about government? You didn't even give them any support. And we are not hearing anything from our own side. I mean, Ousman Sonko, the former Interior Minister, will be prosecuted next year, very soon. I mean, it will very, it will be very short because the cases don't take that long. Bailo is going to serve life in prison, and the guy in America also, that is also, but we haven't had anything in the Gambia as we speak. The TRRC process is complete. I mean, they say they are looking for funding to set up another. It seems like we're also always setting up something. We set up the Commission of Inquiry. We haven't seen any major implementation. The TRRC, no major implementation. SO6 Commission of Inquiry, for the SO6 set up. We're giving people employment, I understand. Anti-corruption bill came. All of these commissions are coming. And just like he said, it's not like we don't have these laws. It's not like we don't have these institutions. It's the implementation. When our institutions are weak, it seems like we have strong men, but we have weak institutions. And then it becomes a problem. Because what is the anti-corruption commission going to do that the police cannot do, just like Mustapha said? When I had the National Assembly members here, some were saying, I had both sides. Others were saying, we voted against it because you don't explain my son is sending you money. And like, you get that receipt when your son sends you money. You can account for that. That is not unexplained word. But they passed it because they just want to make it weak. Just like Mustapha said, they wanted to satisfy somebody's agenda. And this is why you look at all these WHO, US Embassy report, you see World Bank report, and we are doing well. And I keep saying, I don't know whether I'm not doing well. Maybe they're doing well, but I'm not doing well. When you look at all this, you were at the TRRC, it's done. You guys have done your job. It's left with government. The Commission of Inquiry, also, this commission is also coming. We still cannot get information from government, even though the information bill has been signed by the president. Is it worth it anymore?
I'll come back to maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic than these two, but but I, in principle I agree. But in terms of the TRRC, exactly a month ago today, we had a 2-day workshop. Organized by the Gambia Bar Association. The Attorney General actually came. The Solicitor General was there. So it was the validation of the, It was a validation of 2 bills. The Special Prosecutor's Office Bill, as well as the Special Accountability Mechanism Bill. So these two will be creating the Special Prosecutor's Office to investigate, put the evidence together for ultimate prosecution, and the Special Accountability Mechanism will be the hybrid court. So the bills, actually, the Bar Association done fantastic job. So the bills have been the bills are there. So hopefully in the early quarter of 2024, the bills will be passed into law. So alongside that, there will be some work with ECOWAS, so that a treaty will be signed with ECOWAS to create this hybrid court to deal with international crimes, and some of the other things will deal with within our domestic legal judicial framework. So that's in relation to that. So there is some, even though I must admit, Lawyer Darboe was at but people, even as SFR presented, and Mr. Darboe was there, and people like him as a victim, just said that they have to speed things up because Nagoenjai and Sukai Dahaba, a lot of people are dying. And ultimately, you don't also want to set these things up and your key witnesses are no longer alive to support your case. So that's there. But in relation to the Anti-Commission Act, well, in some aspect, I think the law will help, but I think not within government. But what we will do is civil society organizations like Gambia Participates and the others. Perhaps there is now a legal instrument that they can rely on to pursue, whereas in the past that wasn't available. So I think for even people like you who do a lot of this work, and some other civil society organizations, some of them are present, so those organizations can rely on this for something. But in terms of government, again, and that is where I will agree with these two individuals, is that you have to have strong, independent institutions in order for them to function effectively. We have a National Human Rights Commission, and I think the National Human Rights Commission are doing a fantastic job. But so many things happen. No, people may not realize that for example, for example, if you look at the mandate of the National Human Rights Commission and what they do, there's a lot of stuff. For example, a colleague and I were at the National Human Rights Commission in November, December last year to train some CSOs about the implementation of TR and other things. So there are other things that they do and they get involved. But what I'm saying is, when Sabali was arrested last year, it didn't, we have the National Human Rights, it didn't stop the police misbehaving. Bora this year, actually, one would have believed that Sabali would have been a lesson. But Nene Frida and others who were kept beyond 48 hours, under 72 hours, a High Court judge said their detention were unconstitutional because it went beyond the mandatory constitutional period. Alani Bora recently. Now the governor's telephones are actually with the police. For what reason, I don't know.
Bora too.
And Bora too. So what I mean is, and these are high profile, but there is a litany of violations, at every corner. Notwithstanding that we have a constitution that protects fundamental rights and freedoms, national human rights and others. But again, the presence of the National Human Rights Commission has also assisted. For example, the late Golden when he suspected of assaulting somebody within the anti-crime custody. For example, the National Human Rights Commission were involved in that and other things as well. So, for example, but for the commission now, I believe there will be some progress, but I still also believe they will be very selective. As a minister resigned a few months ago under a cloud. We haven't had anything. So, for example, if government is genuinely serious about corruption, these are the sort of things where there is an independent investigation. Maybe there is, but where, for example, there is no bias. You allow the investigators to do their job, and where an offense has been, and on this occasion, for somebody to resign, well, in Europe it happened, but here for somebody to resign and... But
isn't the statement that the government...
I believe that there was almost an admission of wrongdoing. Or from
their statement, yes.
But nothing has happened. So if at cabinet level there are sacred codes, then there is an element of selective application, but also there is not genuine intention to transform in strict. So, but there are so many other examples as well that we can refer to. And corruption, see, when the MPs in 2021 allocated themselves 54.4 million loan, when you understand, you will as well, I'm sure both of you, but the principle, see, corruption here, the understanding corruption is when I give you money, you give me money for something like that. But even conducts like that, for example, MPs who are supposed to be public servants and is in the concern for their primary duty function is to be almost servants of the people. So, for example, when you give yourself a certain financial benefit, is still under the umbrella of corruption, i.e. misuse of your office for financial or personal gain. So and there is a lot of that. So if really we are going to the commission in the commission, the act and the commission, the body itself, are really going to fight and combat corruption, then it has to start from the top, and there has to be a genuine transformation in attitude, in mind. Whereas, and I suspect PEPs, politically exposed individuals, are going to be informally or artificially exempted. Okay, because there are certain individuals here. There are certain powerful individuals. So corruption goes beyond. So when ministers or individuals, even the duty waivers we discussed, it's all part of this systematic corruption. Okay, where people are using those mechanisms to deprive the state of its legitimate revenue. Okay, but also they also get those benefits because of political connections. So certain individuals now, some things happen and you call to say this person needs to be given a favor. Doesn't even be necessarily exchange of money. It's corruption. It's corruption because there is a third party intervention to influence some of the decision making. You know, we have to also be realistic that, for example, our context, social, and everything else. But if the law has to be, if this has, you know, the law has now been, the bill has now been passed into law, and there is, but maybe in the next 2-3 years we will look, you know, and see if genuinely there has been progress. What I suspect would be, like you said, certain individuals who do not have the weight and the political capital may be prosecuted, so that when those people are prosecuted and convicted, then there is a fanfare, as in there is work. But then people who are politically connected, people who probably donate millions and millions and vehicles and other benefits as well, the level of corruption those people are engaged in are at very high levels, but there will be no punishment. They will not be prosecuted. They will continue to receive to benefit from waivers. They will continue to get government contracts, the whole procurement thing. So there is a lot. So generally we think about just money, but it's about the entire architecture and structure. You know, and it has to deal with all of that. So you cannot just because this particular minister dipped 100,000 or million into the pocket. But what about the structure that allows a certain practice to flourish? And that is where there's going to be you know, so if certain politician comes many times for elections, they come and donate $100,000, $200,000 to a political party. Okay, but again, all of those part of the discussions. Should we allow our political party, especially in government, to receive those kind of, because again, where you receive that kind of money, there has to be a benefit in the future. Of course. So that means you have to give that individual government contracts. So it's corruption. Yeah,
it's corruption.
You know, I think that, just to add a little onto what he said, I think that, you know, corruption is a system on its own.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have the right way of managing institutions. So over time, you change those right ways. And as you change them, the system also adapts. So it's like a body that is deformed. Ultimately, the person who has a deformed body adapts to that style. And then that style becomes the body's style. So corruption is a system of its own, and ours is a perfect one of it. Like, I don't know whether you understand what I mean. Like, our system has become corruption in itself. In itself, yes. Our system. Yes, and that's why you see everything that is done with that in mind. So that even if they are giving duty waivers, they're giving duty waivers to folks who are giving kickback underneath. When they are giving tax exemptions, it's the same thing. when we are saying everybody must pay tax, yes, everybody must pay tax, not the ones who are giving us kickbacks. You see what I mean? Now, so everything in the Gambia is done with this in mind. Yeah. And so even political parties, even those that are not in government, I mean, you've seen our parliament, our lawmakers, the way they behave. And with regards to certain things, and you see a little difference between parties here as far as corruption is concerned. So the Gambian in itself, I mean, has come to accept certain things. I mean, look at our culture. When we would say, it means the people themselves have come to normalize corruption.
Yes.
And they have we have cultural practice that also normalize corruption. Now, in a society like that, unless you have a leader who understands these things, these dynamics, and is principled and has strong values, incorruptible, you forget it. It's not rhetorics that will change these things. This thing runs too deeper than that. I mean, we can sit down here and talk about a whole host of issues of corrupt practices. You and I, we would just sit down. We don't even need to do a research. Yep. We would just sit down and talk about it. And so ultimately, you know, like you people are talking about Sabali, for example. And you were saying that Sabali may have struggled to survive because they probably may have tightened the screws on him and then get him to switch on their side. Now, I don't agree with that, but look at that. That in itself, if it is true, that in itself, it's a corrupt practice. Yeah. Right? So we can sit down here and narrate tons of cases of corrupt practices where, I mean, you can't fix it until you have Marina Parade is ready. Not any institution. Anti-Corruption Commission, forget it. Who do they? In fact, Anti-Corruption Commission would have the AG signed up on their corruption on their prosecution. Yeah. AG will have to sign up on it, right? AG works for the president.
Will the AG sign on that?
And you know, in fact, if you look at the National Audit Office, greater number of pushbacks they had during the course of the few years that Karamba had been, the latter part of Karamba's time, you know, because the latter part was quite tough, especially when he started civil society engagement and media engagement. That was in the last 2 years before he left. When the OP started pushing back, it is the office of the president. So you have the people who are making noise the most about audit findings is the office of the president. It's not just police, it's not the police, it's not the office of the Attorney General, it's not the ministries, it's the office of the president. So how do you fight corruption in a situation like that?
Land allocation.
Land allocation. So these issues.
This government, when they allocate land, you know, the level. The level of corruption when it comes to land allocation, you know, where I mean government layouts.
And people
one director been allocated multiple. So it's in your child who is 5 years old, you yourself, your 2 or 3 wives yourself, stuff like that. You know? So,
and people go into politics also. I mean, you were talking about people go into politics for personal gains as well. I mean, you see a politician, you see someone who is not working and is riding a very nice car and is getting money from politics. Like, how do we make politics like that? I mean, look at all these politicians who are running after these major political parties, particularly the NPP. They're riding vehicles. I mean, where are they getting that money from? And you know, they have their campaigns funded. They have vehicles. I mean, in the lead up to the presidential election, NPP ordered 24 vehicles. UDP also ordered some fleet of pickups, and NPP ordered 24 vehicles. Before that, Barrow had his vehicle where he was riding this fancy vehicle, and he was saying it was given to me by Kalilu or somebody.
He said somebody, but even their bureau, he said a businessman.
Exactly.
Gave them that land and built
so
it,
you have a head of state who does not probably even comprehend what corruption is. I mean, I don't think he does anyway, because he said those things so innocently as it's not a problem for him. I mean, personally, I mean, it pains to admit, but I don't think he understands what corruption means, and what can you take and what can't you not take, because you can't, a president can't take money president can't take money from a businessman.
A colleague, I'm not going to but somebody in civil society told me that she went to Rwanda, and late night she had headache. So she either went to the reception or called the receptionist and asked if they had paracetamol. And the receptionist, a mail came to bring the paracetamol to her room. I said, well, I am not, a nurse or a physician, but I cannot, but I'll place it on the table. You have to drink for yourself. And afterwards, she said she offered this hotel employee money, and the guy, and they were only the two of them in the room. The guy refused and said, no, I'm only doing my job. I cannot accept this. But as a matter of fact, this is incomprehensible. I cannot do this. I am not a fan of Paul Kagame by any means, because I am human rights biased, and I think what he does in terms of human rights record. But I think in terms of he's built a culture where the citizens have kind of denounced corruption at every level, because this is a foreigner, probably only going to be in that room for 2-3 nights, and is giving you money, can go into your pocket, and apart from God, none the wiser. Okay, nobody else will know about it. But it really means that person has been institutionalized in believing that this is wrong. Okay, whether there is anybody who is privy to it or otherwise. So those are the sort of challenges I think we would. But Rwanda, because of their history, I think the amount of money that came, they had the benefit of almost reconstructing their country. 2017 would have sort of been for us almost like a clean slate.
In 2016, 2017, Doctor?
We certainly did. But I think that that goodwill has gone.
Is it completely gone? Because I see ECOWAS and the EU and UN still interested in Gambia's transitional process, and ECOWAS will tell you, look, we want Gambia to be an example for a country that went through all of this, and we changed government. And you see still, they're still giving us chance. Do you think we can still get that goodwill and run with it and change our institutional structure, reforms and stuff like that?
I mean, those institutions will, no matter how bad the situation gets. I mean, even in the worst days of the regime, we were still engaging with those institutions. Even EU, even though they reduced their assistance significantly, we still engage with them. None of those embassies closed. The World Bank office, ADB offices, I mean, that that link with the government, there was still engagement. Budget support were there. So I guess that's not the measure of saying whether or not the that goodwill. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you look at the reforms that are supposed to happen, things like security sector reform. I mean, look at security sector reform. Who can say there has been any significant reform? We've had what? National security policy, a few change in the position. But at this end of the day, if you look at the security sector, the military budget is still the same trajectory from when it was during the Jammeh regime. The composition of officers, in terms of, I mean, we don't want to go to the caricatures of people, with the exception of people getting disappeared or summarily executed. If you look at whether somebody feels safe today, or if something happens in your neighborhood, you are confident that if you call the police, they would come, or whether there is a greater recognition that as a country, our biggest security priority should be domestic law enforcement. All of these things, nothing has changed. So we could be getting a lot more from our development partners. But another, than we are getting. So the window has closed. But the thing, one example would be, think of the case of Gambians. A lot of Gambians who, when we had a transition, the Gambians abroad who wanted to return. I'm sure all of you have, you know a few examples of some Gambians who came in with a lot of hope, wanted to try something, and a few months later, they returned.
Yes.
Yeah. Some even started businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing is, because what we thought would happen, so this is like our fellow Gambians losing confidence. And if our fellow Gambians who are citizens of this country, who had hope of returning here, they've lost that confidence. Imagine, development partners or foreigners. So that goodwill that we had, you can see the difference between the sort of assistance you would get from development partners, from foreign direct investments, diaspora coming back to invest. You can see the difference if you have a country that is going somewhere, that is, things are really happening, as opposed to, a country that is still stuck. Because every, ministry, if you look at every sector, there hasn't been any significant change. Our education sector is, you wouldn't know this from the annual announcement of the worst results, but the results are really terrible. The average person going to the hospital, are they confident that if they go to the hospital they'll get more than a paracetamol? No. Fisheries. If anything, we've been getting one bad. We've been getting actually negative investments, in the sense of the sort of investors that are coming are being negatively selected because we are getting bad deals. You can say the same thing about agriculture. There is nothing that has fundamentally changed in the agricultural sector between the Jammeh regime and now, in terms of strategies, in terms of policies, in terms of annual government activities. It's the same thing. So at the end of the day, what do you see at the economy as a whole? The economy is growing on average. If you look at over the past 10 years, it's relatively the same. Just to put this in a different way, we are a low-income country.
Yeah.
By global standard. At the past 3 years, if we continue to grow at the same rate, 10, 20 years from now, we will never reach even lower middle income status. We will remain low country, a low country, and if anything, probably a fragile state, which we are currently characterized as. So what is happening and again, you don't have to look at numbers, and I've written about this before. Talk to the average Gambian. Ask them, economically, your living standard, is it better today than it was yesterday? I doubt the majority will tell you things have improved over time. So the metric itself, forget about what is publicly being said by development partners. They are constrained by normal rules of diplomacy to put things in a certain way. If you just read the words themselves, you won't really get what's up. But you have to read between the lines. Between the lines. Yeah. The fact of the matter is that the hope that they have, that we as Gambians have, for reforms that we expected to happen by now, those hopes have evaporated. Talking
about the economy, Dr. Steele, you have written extensively recently about the tax issues. The president, when he was on tour, said, we're going to see some increase in taxes, but he came out also to rectify it. I remember your last piece, one of the directors from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, called and said, but this your article is wrong. We are not increasing taxes. I said, actually, maybe you should look at it, and it's an opinion piece. It's not from us. And he looked at it again. He said, no, he doesn't understand what we were doing. And I'm like, that's why you need to come to us and let us know what you're saying. If you are saying he doesn't understand. No, one thing that caught my attention when you said, before the president speaks to us about increasing taxes, he should consider paying taxes himself.
Absolutely.
That stick with me, really. That really stick with me. Because, the ordinary Gambian, especially small businesses who are starting up, and this has been my cry from 2016 when I came, when big companies come in, they tell them, oh, we give you tax breaks. We give you all of this. They give you tax breaks, all of this. But as a starting business, you have nothing. There's nothing that your country is providing for you. And that makes it difficult. And this is the situation now. Looking at the tax, bracket that we are in right now, would increasing taxes be helpful to young entrepreneurs and just the ordinary Gambia?
No, of course not. I mean, listen, do you think, of course, the president tried to make a difference between tax and non-tax? Like at the end of the day, is you can say effective tax rate is individuals effectively paying something,
Yeah.
a levy. You can play some word games and say, this is not a tax, it's a non-tax thing. That is not important. I mean, in my article, I focused on the lack of reform of the tax system in general.
Yeah.
Because one thing we have in the Gambia that is problematic, and this if we are not alone, we are one of just a few countries that have something like this, where if you are a business, you come in, you want to start a business, and then even if you have a loss, the first couple of years, you have to pay tax, and the tax is calculated on your revenue. If a business has a negative net income, has a loss, in virtually every place in the world, you are exempted from tax. If a business is losing money, and on top of that, there's a tax bill, which is calculated on revenue as opposed to net income, you are killing most of those businesses. Yeah. This is the problem we had in our GRA Act, which was enacted in 2004 during the Jammeh regime, and that fundamental flaw still persists. Now, there is nothing wrong with having tax concessions or exempting companies from tax if it is done strategically. Every country does this. You know, a country like the Gambia, you need foreign direct investment. And to entice investors in general, and particularly in sectors where you need investment, you can give those tax incentives to encourage investments overall and direct them towards particular sectors. So let's say somebody's in agriculture or manufacturing. These are very important for economic development. They create a lot of jobs, and they can help transform the economy. You can say, okay, we know that in these sectors, to invest, start a business, you will not have income. Like in agriculture, which I am active in, you will have no net income. If you are planting trees, you have no positive net income for a few years. So in a real tax system anyway, even without tax concession, they wouldn't pay tax because their net income would be negative. They will not be access any tax. This is not the case in the Gambia. Unless you go through GAIPA and get like that investment certificate, which by the way is expensive, you have to pay at least $1,000, which is outside of the reach of most young Gambians. You will have to pay tax on your turnover. That means, let's say you start a small processing business. You have a revenue of 1 million, but you are employing 50 people. But your first year, your expenses are 1.5 million. Your net income is $500,000. You will pay tax on the 1 million. So in addition to your net income of negative $500,000, you pay a tax. So even if there is no increase in rate, that tax system is bad. It should have been changed long time ago. You know, having a system where government is always jumping about, how much we raise income, how much we raise tax revenue, that is just it's too short-sighted. Because what you raise in a given year normally is affected mostly by the tax rate. What is going to help the country mobilize resources domestically is increasing the tax base. So it makes sense for a poor country like the Gambia, for a couple of years, to actually have a decreasing tax revenue, if that means increasing the tax base by making it much more possible for businesses to young people who don't have much capital to start a business and that will survive. And then government forgo a bit of revenue so that in the future there'll be a bit more tax revenue to collect, even if the tax rate is lowered. Right now you have this problem. The problem you have fundamentally is that the government is basically incentivizing GRA to bring in a lot of money. And the reason why they are pressed for a lot of revenue is the following. The problem is the budget. When you look at this budget, what you see is a lot of recurrent expenditures, number one, very little going into development expenditures, which is what you need for growth. And a lot of it is not prioritized well. It's going into sectors that have very little return for us. You have almost $2 billion going into foreign service. When you still have hospitals where when people go, they don't have kind of medicine. Why do we need an embassy in Russia when you have a lot of roads here that are the amount we spend in a 5-year period in many of these useless embassies we have can build several roads, can build several schools. So when you have your budget and the little revenue you have, you are using most of it on recurrent expenditures and misprioritizing it. There is always pressure for you to get a lot of money, and especially if your development partners are not bringing in as much as they normally would because of their loss of confidence in you, you become a lot more focused on short-term revenue generation at the expense of long-term. Because the reason why we are missing out on investments in certain key areas or in infrastructure, it's not because there is no money. It's not. Money is there. It's just being used in the wrong way. An excessive amount going into State House. A very bloated security sector. This security service.
Even a bloated civil service.
Yes, yeah. I mean, our total civilian employment force in a country of our size here, we're talking about 50,000. Now, when you are in any government office, when you are hiring people, it shouldn't be to say, oh, how many people I'm hiring. The question is, there is an objective, a service to be performed, a good to be delivered to people. Let's get people based on who can deliver that service. When that is done well, most of the job creation may actually happen outside of the government, not within government. So here we have, the State House, the amount allocated to State House. It makes no sense. The amount is just too high. Half of that amount should be enough to run a normal State House. But you have a lot of people there who I really have no idea. I mean, Barrow's government, the first 5 years, there were permanent secretaries for all sort of positions where you had ministries, duplicating roles that already exist in various ministries. It makes no sense. So the tax problem here, the government can dodge and say, oh, we are not increasing tax. For instance, our corporate income tax has been reduced. Here, it has been reduced to 27, which is fine. But like I said, when you are still killing businesses because you are forcing them to pay tax even in their first year, it's not going to, it doesn't really matter. It's a distinction without a difference. But they've been increasing tax in other areas, and they've done it before. There's been outcry. They tried to pull back, like a few years back. I don't know if you remember. There was a tax on increase of tax on cement.
Yes.
Cement is one of the biggest component of infrastructure. If there's anything we need in this sector, should be things should be made easier, is cement. Every individual is trying to build something at their own house, and all of our road constructions have need for cement. For a country that is that appreciate the importance of infrastructure, there actually shouldn't be any tax on cement. The tax revenue that you would lose from removing tax, import duties on cement will be more than compensated for in the infrastructure growth that you will have, which is an important component of having a well-functioning business enabling environment. Because when that happens tomorrow, the number of businesses you will have would be so much so that the tax revenue you will get from that, even if you reduce the tax rate, will be high. But it requires long-term thinking, rather than annually short-term basis and jubilating just because you've reached a certain level of tax collection in a given year. So I think I really wish the director from the ministry, I think he will do the country a lot of service if he could come on this show or anywhere, explain what we are saying, how wrong it is. I mean, I remember one time one permanent secretary and a director at the Ministry of Industry telling me that my criticisms about the cement tax was simplistic, but that's where they stop. I said, please then enlighten me. You can write something, you can go to any media. I'm sure the government will not prohibit you. If you have something to say, and if somebody has said something that's blatantly wrong, it should be quite easy to point out how wrong they are.
And I think it's important that you keep writing, because
so that it's also a discussion.
It's a discussion.
And educate the people.
You just provoke a discussion with them. So
usually also in my experience, people do that even in investigations. They pretend you are wrong. You know, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's not that it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's just that they don't want you to go there.
Point there, yeah.
And the other issue is just to add. I mean, tax is one thing that has a domino effect. If you increase tax, every other thing increases.
Yes.
Prices go up. In fact, it affects even government salary.
Yes.
Because the people you are going to pay also are going to procure services.
Yeah.
And you just increase their salary, and you go and increase tax now. You are taking it from them through the other way. Yeah. So you give it to the left and you're taking it from there. I mean, it's crazy. And they don't need to, because
inflation. We are closing the year at a very high level.
Food commodity price inflation, I think it's 17% or something.
I mean,
no, the food one is over 20%.
I saw
general inflation was
general
around
inflation at the
double
central bank
digit in
website
anywhere.
is about
That's not
17.
good news.
No.
But my thing is, we do know that the government say they have removed taxes on food commodities, right? You know, I mean, look, when this guy, Nigerian president, when he came, there were subsidies for fuel. He took it out and said, look, at the expense of the local people, you know, how many percentage have cars? And the entire population is paying subsidies on behalf of them. Let's take it out and let's everybody deal with this. And right now, what is happening is, during COVID, they did implement that subsidy thing for people to be able to bring food commodities and stuff so that it can be affordable. Even the central bank said they're chipping in, because one of their mandates is to stabilize prices and stuff like that, right? They're chipping in to make sure we can. Somebody said to me at the central bank, you know, if we have not even chipped in today, we will not be able to even afford a bag of rice. Now, with all of this, the ordinary Gambian still cannot provide basic commodities. You know, what do you expect 2024 going to be like? You know,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, of course, I mean, there are eternal optimists among us who might pray and expect something better, but I don't think one should realistically expect anything different in 2024. With inflation, so let's, I mean, for an average Gambian, what is your biggest, expenditure item? It's food. Let's pick the example out of that. Rice.
Yeah.
So a bag of rice now is approaching 2,000. Now, if you take
2006.
2006,
Look,
yeah. I bought half bag of when is today? Thursday.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I bought half bag of sugar for 1,000. The guy said 1,450.
Exactly.
But I bought rice last month for, well, it's a little bit longer than that, 2,400. But my nephew told me over the weekend that he bought 2,600.
Exactly. No, think about that. Let's. Not everyone has a salaried job as a civil servant, but they take this. If you take all of the civil servants and take the salary, average salary, you're still looking at something less than 10,000 per month. But let's be generous and say you have somebody who's making something like 7,000 a month after the deduction of tax and everything. You know, that would be much higher than many people.
Yeah.
You know, once you remove 2,500 from there, what are you left with? I mean, they still have to pay for cash power, going to and from work. They have to pay for that.
And that's also gone up.
Yeah, significantly.
That goes up consistently.
That is the biggest adjustment anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, that is affecting everybody.
Unless you start
40%.
turning off your
AC.
your TV, AC, and everything, and start lighting the candle.
Now I go around everybody's house. I go around Sire and say, Sire, I go behind to check whether there's water there. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That's how bad it has gotten to.
Yeah. But you know, the question you ask yourself now, if you just focus on that main thing, that rice is the biggest component.
Yeah.
Do you expect it to be lower next year? Should anyone expect it to be lower?
Ramadan is coming. It will go up by 200, 300.
Sugar is $17 is per cup.
In fact,
Last month.
So my area, that is the reason why that was the reason why, because I don't drink attire, and I generally use sweetener instead of sugar. Not even, but sugar is not like, but so when they were going to buy sugar, the guy said one cup is $18. And then I did the call. I'm thinking, no, this is not tenable. Like, this is expensive. That's why I said, okay, let me go and buy. But for 95% of Gambians, or 98, is the daily cup. And people who drink mono and sato and all the rest of it. How do you survive in Kiang? I don't know.
Because in
they drink mono
we do business, so we know how to survive. But like, just to agree with him, Fat, I think there are two fundamental problems. Everything we have been doing is paying lip service to progress. We don't want to progress. Gambia will bulu ultimate katitale. Katitala kende ata nyama. No, come here. Nibulo katita yabula kende ata.
Haima sama doctor.
Kuka fix yalo. Yala enta katila. For kati. And that is painful. Gambia, what we needs to do is to fight kati. I dimming, I fix. You want that to fix, lad?
Gambia.
No, it will not be fixed.
But we went through that.
No. Trust me.
From 2026.
No, we have not done that.
2017 was supposed to be the reconstruction.
2017, you see, what they did in 2017, when they came, at the expense, the Gambians suffered at the expense of convenient politics. Coalition did convenient politics. Coalition, even things that are simple as Public Order Act, they don't want to remove it. Why does the UDP National Assembly wanted to sponsor a bill right now to remove the public order? But UDP was in power. Did they remove the public order?
Yes.
They could have done it.
They had the numbers before. I
They didn't. So convenient politics was what threatened our lives. Now, what the problem is, Gambians don't want to change the Gambia. They talk about it. People who talk about Nintonya Gambian no sing Tonya Bokafo. Not Yelakafo. That has to change. If you want to change a country, you have to be ready to suffer for that. Development, like Professor Chiwizu calls it cargo cultural development. Development cannot be put in a ship from America and imported into the Gambia.
No way.
Development has to be domestic idea generated from within this economy. We look at the key sectors and say, how do we fix this? Dr. Gajigo was talking about one area that's very interesting. Now, and that is increasing taxes versus poor investment. So you collect taxes where your investment choices are poor. So in other words, you ask yourself, why would anybody be incurring loan and this you cannot repay your loan? You are indebted to a point you are insolvent. It's because you are not investing.
Exactly.
Yeah? Because if you are investing, you generate revenue, you generated profit, and you will repay.
Exactly.
And they give you more loan.
Yes, and they give you more loan, you invest. Exactly. So the right word that we've been missing is investment. We've not been investing. And look at the behavior of our government. So let's look at the few examples you have selected. You've talked about the stupid thing some guy told you from the central bank. Look at what the central bank did. Central bank went and take $200 million, they said. The governor did not even give us the dignity of telling us who were given that $200 million. To do what? Friends of politicians, to do what? Import rice product. Make us more consumerist economy than an economy that is independent. Tell me, you've spent, if you invest...
200 million?
Wasn't it $200 million? Wow. The one that they said they collected from, they took it from our, they said from our, how do you call it? You people call export, what do you...
Reserve?
You guys were reserve, right? Okay. I think they call it a reserve. They took it from the reserve. And they gave it to business. And you know what the governor told journalists? Had we not done this, you would still have been hungry. And that's what they claim was a subsidy. When they came initially, they gave subsidy to rice importers. What did it change? Nothing. Yeah. Not one butut was removed from. You are giving subsidy to rice importers to make outrageous profit, right? And it changed nothing bad. So, and also you've talked about COVID, subsidy under COVID.
COVID, yes.
Now tell me, somebody with sense, you go and put together $800 million. That's close to $40 million, right? To go and alleviate a suffering of families for 2 weeks. Bag of rice and 1 gallon of vegetable oil. 2 weeks, right? you are an economist. I'm not an economist, but I see no sense in this. You go and you put together 800 million. Okay, let's even suppose that you take $800 million. Free money, $800 million. You call 7 people, each from each region, and give each of them $5 million. $5 million. And say, okay, we are going to support you to build a garden. I'm saying free money.
But
Don't take money.
Is that not what they did for the rice
No,
importers?
no, that's not what they did with the rice importers.
Okay.
I'm just saying free money.
Okay.
You said, okay, guys, I'm selecting one person from each region. And you select them and say, look, we want you to go into horticultural production. We're going to support you with $5 million. We're not going to give you money, but we're going to give you proceeds. We are going to give you technical support. We are going to give you machinery. You will be fully irrigated, everything. Free. And we are going to hire you an accountant, and we are going to hire you marketers. So we're going to effectively make you an organized business. And you are going to be paying tax in 2 years. Trust me, in 5 years, you are going to recover from those people in taxes more than probably $100 million. And they are going to make a business that is going to supply Gambia horticultural produce probably forever, and even have enough to export. I'm just saying you give it to them free, but with support. You have NARI, you have agriculture extension workers, you have agriculture. You said our ministry, our government is at your disposal. Let alone if it is a soft loan or something. They give this to the COVID support.
Yeah, this is a perfect example. I mean, this calculation actually has been done. If our total arable land in the Gambia is like over 400,000 hectares. What we grow in terms of traditional things in groundnut and other things, you only need 6,000 hectares of horticulture to have something in value surpassing whatever we grow in our traditional crops. What he's talking about actually is very interesting, because a calculation actually has been done, where if you take, based on the horticultural farms in the Gambia, less than $10 million, you will be able to meet their needs, not only for irrigation, for input seeds, fertilizer, and fencing. And what he has said, if you calculate the value, so I've calculated the value of this, just on using 6,000 hectares national, what you will get in the value, economic value from that, exceeds the whole, our traditional agriculture combined, using the current prices that we have. That's small amount. Let's put that in perspective. A couple of these, if you take a section of a fraction of the budget at the State House, that is used at the State House, or a fraction of the budget that is wasted on these embassies, you will cover this amount, or a fraction of this COVID support. In other words, if the budget is taken and invested, I have this project where we go around nationally, we assist many villages with vegetable seeds, and with less than $1 million, we are able to cover 60 villages.
And you are shocked yourself.
I was shocked with the amount. Less than $1 million, dollars, not dollars. 60. Now, if you look at the number of villages that have significant horticultural garden, you're looking at a number less than 200. So the amount you will, with $5 million alone, you would cover, if not all, but most of it. And you might even go to the part where you, in fact, can even install storage system, where if somebody in Badibu, somewhere in Salikenya or Njabakunda, if they have two, benyuar full with tomatoes, they are not forced to go and sell it at fire sale prices at the Farapenyo. Because it will perish the following
It affects the women.
In fact, when they go and sell that, some of them have barely enough to take the vehicle to come back to their village in Salikenya. Why? Because our government is not even aware. When we were starting that project, we couldn't even find the list of villages in the Gambia that had horticultural garden. We had to go around the country, find that list ourselves, develop it, find out what is the size of the farms in the village, the number of women that are there. Our government thinks that agricultural support totally is, at the beginning you give a few fertilizer to farmers, which come late most of the time. And
they give discount. They said they have given a lot of discount this year.
The problem is, at the end of the day, they should be asking themselves, if you give that fertilizer and seed, what is the result you are expecting at the end of the year in December? We never get something from the government, because the proof of the pudding is not how much you are giving out, but what you are getting, the results.
Yes.
They will announce the fertilizers, but the fact of the matter, the fertilizers don't come on time. There is no discussion or any careful planning about the type of fertilizer that is being brought, whether it meets the agricultural needs of the country, whether it is targeting a particular sector. So at the end of the day, in addition to that, maybe a few kilograms of rice that is distributed, but also don't haphazardly. Sometimes it reaches some of the villages in late August, when by then, if you are lucky, if the rain season passes until late October, your rice will do well. But if rain stops early October, it's not enough time, because 2 months is not enough for most of these rice varieties to reach maturity. So what he's saying here, I mean, I don't know if many people understand, and I try to expand on this in some of my columns. All it takes is a small amount of investment to make a big impact, as long as you are serious about a particular goal, and then that 5 million, this is not a number. I mean, I'm surprised when I heard, because
800 million.
He's talking about the 200 million from the central bank.
Yes, what I'm saying.
Yes, they gave it to a couple of people. The governor even said they will not disclose the names.
For what?
To import rice.
Yeah, but again, what would have happened, I suspect, would be bloating and inflation of prices and stuff. So the invoice.
Somebody said to me, the government wants to create millionaires every year, like at
the expense of
25 millionaires every year. So every year, if they're able to create 25 million, by the end of the 5 years, all of us at least 75 of us will be millionaires. I mean, but that's the goal.
Even if you take $100 million, $100 million, and give it to Dr. Gajigo for free, and give him conditions that we want you to build rice farms across the country, it will be irrigated. We are going to dug a canal right from Jahali Pachar and use the fresh water, and make sure fresh water is accessible even in this area without even irrigation. You don't even need underground water. We already have fresh water reservoir. We can use canals like Gaddafi did in Libya, dug a canal right across the entire southern bank of the Gambia River, of the Gambia. The entire south bank can be irrigated using that water. And you said, we're going to support you build farms across the country, and you are going to be able to generate. We can make a calculation. We can make a calculation and say we need enough farms to be able to generate 300,000 tons. We consume only 200,000 tons and less of rice. Only 200,000 tons of rice and less. And this is all on the burden of subsistence farmers. Then they said, oh no, we are supporting subsistence farmers. Fact, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever had. Subsistence farmers cannot make any country self-sufficient in food. It does not happen ever in human history. Because what happens is that for me to be able to feed myself and feed him, this thing needs to be commercial in nature, so that it's large scale, it's profit generating, and so that it has to be business. So whether you're going to support people to do it, or you're going to support individuals to do it, but this idea of we are giving them inputs, we are giving them, even if you give that 100 million to him and support him, he's going to make sure rice is available in the country, because we're going to have enough in the country, and he's going to make sure he's paid tax. So, I mean, we're not investing our money.
And we have an example here. We have Maruo farms here, where
there is another Mbalo.
Exactly. And there are other young entrepreneurs. There's no shortage, and there will be many more who will come if you have the right policies in place. Now, if that man, I've not spoken to him about all his dealings with the government, but
if he gets the support.
If he gets the support, this is somebody who could have just continued to live in the US.
Musa.
But if we realize what sort of resource we have with an investor, with a citizen like that guy, his success should be the objective metric of our Ministry of Agriculture. They should be behind him, and that should be inculcated in the minds of every single official, that this man's success is the country's success. Because he could be like sort of a beacon, a demonstration effect, that because when this guy succeeds, the amount of rice we import will fall drastically. Means all of this inflation that we import from the purchasing of rice will fall. Because the value of rice we import is over 100 million. Annually, it's about $150 million. That alone is more than our export. So if you can cut that part alone, the boost it will bring to the economy, the job creation it will do here. I mean, if you see some of the technological innovations he's been bringing into the rice sector in Sierra, I visited some of his the processing centers. Of course, if you talk to some people in government, they will tell you, oh yeah, we've been supporting him, this and that. There is lip service and there's real support. And the real support and the real recognition of the value that he can bring to the economy. Not only him, I mean, I'm just using him as a shorthand for every investor. You know, it's just tremendous. So it's really sad that, you know, their only example of what they are doing meaningful is talking about blowing, you know, 100 million here and there on import, which is basically perpetuating our economic problem, because we are, you know, perpetuating our dependence on import. How is that solving our problems for the future?
Yeah.
You should be looking at how to increase domestic production so that our dependence on the future, I mean, on imports is lessened. You know, we are in a situation where we become less exposed to shocks from outside. Inflation becomes something much more manageable. Because if you cut rice imports significantly, it's as if you are putting money directly into the hands and the pockets of every single Gambian, because this is something every household head has to put money in on a daily basis.
And you know, I ask myself one thing. I mean, for me, if a country is progressing, I mean, never mind, we both know we're not progressing. Even the World Bank, who is political with their statement, they said we're poorer today than we were 5 years ago. I mean, the poverty level has gone up by 5%. So we're poorer. There's no good news about that. But and if you want to put that in context, think about this. Because me, I'm a bachelor, I live alone, right? And now think about this. If you live below $1 a day, $2 a day, that's like 150.
Around that. Yes.
It's less than 150.
About 145, 150. Yes.
Now, you know, if you want to buy, let's say if you are a Badibunka who just recently come and you want to enjoy something different, you want to go and have some nice shrimps and some stuff at the restaurant. Okay, you pay 350 to 400. That is just some couple of shrimps in some whatever name they gave it. Now I'm telling you, half of the Gambia lives below $2 a day. Visualize that. Like sit down and think, half of the Gambia, every 10 person you meet, 5 lives below $2 a day. This includes family members. That means they can barely get 2 loaves of bread and mayonnaise and egg. Their president's food bill, how much is it?
150 a month.
150
a day.
150,000. That's their president's food bill, right?
150,000
a
month.
State house,
No,
a day.
Not a day or a month, whatever it is. Even it's 1,000 a day. Even if it's 1,000, for the president, if it's 1,000.
No, it couldn't be, it couldn't be, because that would be like 2,000. It wouldn't be 2,000 a month. So
Exactly.
it's probably a day.
It's a day. Now, if you check
that is a colossal sum.
Now, the Gambia, we are talking about the Gambia, people who employ the president. Now, that's probably a bit sensational. I say, this is what we do. We don't invest. And because we don't invest, the productive sectors die at the expense of sectors that give us kickback. And that's why our governments go into construction. Everything they talk about is construction. Now go and sit them, tell them, what have you done? They will begin to count you roads they built, schools they built, beautiful structures they built, because there are kickbacks.
And they end up being
they are almost, yes, they are substandard and they are almost 2 times the cost. Jammeh did it here. When Jammeh first came, what did he do? To him, he knows it's easy to impress the Gambians. Jawara, with all his deficiencies, he knew that the economy must not be spending what it does not have. So that's why the debt was huge, but it was at a certain level. But when Jammeh came, he went massively into construction. So he started with the Taiwanese 35 million, where he built the hospitals, Jammeh Foundation, he built the Arch 22 for $1 million. Imagine, Arch 22 cost $1 million. Then, But who owns the construction company who built some of those? He's a lawyer. Right? It's a lawyer. I mean, we don't have to go back to Jana Commission. But you go to Jana Commission and see some of those people become millionaires out of that construction. And Jame become what? He also became a millionaire. Out of what? Those constructions. So they go into construction, but look at all the key sectors that make an economy grow. Fisheries, it has died. Even Jawara's fisheries sector was better. At least in Salekenya, for example, you go there, we even had ice production depot at around the beach side. What I'm on to, you don't buy chalo mubuka wasang. No, you don't. This small fish, that's how it was from. And I'm sure if you go to Tanje back then, or you go to Bakau back then and all that, you go to, in fact, Bakau, you see a place and you know that, okay, this place used to have a very proper fish landing site. But now you go to those places, there are no ice production depots, there are no proper fish landing sites, there are no investment in the fishery sector. I mean, all they do is, in fact, even our own Navy doesn't have the capacity to monitor the waters. You would see they just launch some fisheries, the vessel, whatever vessel they had, was donated to us by Spanish. Everything we have to have is donated. It's corruption. That is the reason why we cannot get things for ourselves. How much money do we get from all these fishing vessels? You know how many illegal fishing is happening in our waters? They get caught, they go and negotiate it. When they negotiate it, they pay pittance, and they get pittance, they get their kickbacks, they go. Now, if we properly manage our fisheries resources, and say, for example, EU, they had a fishing agreement with EU. I'm just confining myself to fisheries. Yeah. They have a fishing agreement with EU. Just to tell you that greed clogs people's mind. And that's what has been happening in the Gambia. Corruption is what clogs our mind. We're not thinking, and we're not thinking productive. They have a fishing agreement with EU. They could have, EU has a bunch of countries, France, bunch of countries with proper vessels, fishing vessels, good navy, used boats. They could have said, EU, okay, we want 10 speedboats for our navy. They didn't do that. They said, give us money, give us €500,000. Can you imagine? €500,000? Give us 3,200 tons of tuna. You fish in our waters, give us €500,000. They didn't. They knew. If we said, give us proper fishing speedboats for our military, it would have been more productive, because we would have been able to, and said, okay, help us with trawlers. We can even establish our own fishing companies, our own state fishing companies. But they don't want to do any of those. It's immediate, always. Give us money. They gave them money. What do they do with those money? They can't even buy they can't even buy speedboats for the navy. Yeah? So they don't invest. I mean, that the same thing happens in agriculture. The same thing happens in all the other sectors. They are not investing all that it's on the immediate. It's on the politics. It's on the politics. It's on the politics. Yeah, it's on the politics. And so unless our thinking transcends that immediate gratification, things will not be fixed. We will just be paying lip service to corruption, lip service to investment, lip service to this, lip service to that. Ask yourself, what has changed fundamentally, other than saying we have built this road and that road? In the Gambia, the economic fundamentals in this country, what has changed? Nothing. If you have invested,
instead we are just privatizing everything.
Exactly.
Instead,
but even that,
all of our states, our serious state institutions, we're privatizing.
Even
our bridge, you know, we talked about this several times. Even I saw a story about the airport where they're going to give a certain company who will be running the services of the airport. What happens to the civil aviation?
And the country would end up being a shell without an asset.
It seems like we're losing
be
all
a cell
of our
without
assets.
an asset.
And the sad thing about some of these things is like it's like corrupting, sort of like giving a bad name to certain practices that normally, if done right, would be good. If you have some state enterprise that's losing money, so doing well, and the private sector can do it better, nothing wrong with privatizing it. the bridge, Trans-Gambia Bridge. If a proper asset recycling is done, it could have led to some very important infrastructure for us. But that's not what is happening. They just saying putting a certain label on it, but what is actually done on the ground and the label given is completely different. So the Trans-Gambia Bridge, the minister, when things came out, the minister, tried to bamboozle the whole country by saying that, oh, negotiations are not done yet. We are still negotiating this. But the fact of the matter is, the moment they announced the amount, the $100 million, it means negotiations were 99.9% done. Because when it comes to negotiations for asset recycling, the most important issue to be negotiated is the value of the asset. So that by the time we heard about it, 99.9%, he was not being honest with the country. But on top of that, the sort of financial, what's the word to put here? The disservice to the country. Because if you look at it, when during the whole thing, Africa 50 sent experts here to come and look at the bridge and estimate the traffic flow. Our Ministry of Finance, as of a few weeks ago, when I asked about it at an event at Coco Ozone, they don't even know the traffic flow. Here you are negotiating our asset to be transferred to a different ownership for an extended period of time, and the one factor that you need to know to help you determine the value of that asset, which is the traffic, daily traffic across the bridge, you didn't even bother, finding that out so that you can know, you can try to get the best value, for the country. It just means either you don't care or you are incompetent for your job. Either way, the man has no business being a finance minister. I'm sorry. I mean, I know people who know him, but the truth is the truth. They just did a disservice to the country. So to call that an asset recycling is completely false. Because now we have all of the evidence we need. In this budget, $10 million from that from Africa 50 has been made in that budget.
Oh.
Yes. And there is nothing in that budget that says where that 10 million is going. So it's going into the general pot. For all we know, that money is fungible. It's likely going into fund some recurrent expenditure. But they actually got the first payment from Africa 50.
And my problem with this government is the transparency part. That is the problem. When that Africa 50 thing came out, we heard it from the news. We saw the video. Nobody told us. The government did not say, the ministry, nobody said anything. We saw the video. When people started talking about it, they rushed on a weekend and organized a press conference. Exactly. And the minister said, no, we are not done. And then again, you were telling us 10 million payment has been done.
Oh, has been done.
The same thing happened to the 200 million you are saying. Nobody knows who this money was given to. Who are these people? They want, this is the
because like I said,
money.
Like I said, Fatou, the fundamental problem this country faces, whether it's with Barrow's government, Jaya's government, Jawara's government, and probably the government that's going to take over, would be accountability. Unless we fix that, we're not fixing anything. Even the tax you are talking about, we are overboarding poor people. I wrote a small short post where I argued that the tax increase is immoral. Because there are folks with large amount of resources who could pay huge amount of tax who are not paying.
They're not paying.
And you are overboarding a poor person who is living below $2 a day to go and pay. You are saying compound rates. People pay that once a month, once a year. So what? Once a year, I'm living below $2 a day. You've given security report a tax exemption. You've given security report tax exemption and duty waiver. Of course, they gave them duty waiver. They gave them tax. You were here when they were having issues.
And they shouldn't have been eligible for that. This is not a company that came in to make infrastructure or investment in a productive sector.
Even Semlex contract. As of the last one I read, I'm not sure whether the new one they are making.
But that is the reason. That is the reason. But that is the reason why they, trying to renew. That is some of the issues because the former contract had tax exemption.
Yes.
And Semlex won the same thing.
Tax exemption, duty waiver. Banjul project tax exemption, duty waiver. All these folks tax exemption, duty waiver. That's what they do.
Me and you were
you go to, exactly. So, and you go to even GRA. I mean, I talk to a lot of people either in government accountability or in the tax business. And I know certain people with political connection don't pay tax here. They don't. I mean, you don't have to go into the media, and I mean, except if it falls under your story, then once you do the story, you will highlight it that this person has not been paying tax. But they incredible list of those things, and that's the point. Unless, that's why we've gone back to this, and we've said it before at the beginning, unless things are fixed at the Marina Parade, justice does not have politics, it does not have a party t-shirt.
Yeah.
There is no exceptional person. I mean, everybody pays tax, everybody is equal, everybody is just a Gambian. That's what you see. If somebody commits a crime and is politically relevant, it doesn't matter, he goes to prison. That's where criminals go. Yeah?
Until we do that.
Until we do that, and it has to be done by the president.
That's from the top.
Yes, until that's the case, things won't change here. Forget about it. It doesn't matter if you have a anti-corruption commission, appoint him as anti-corruption commission chair.
Yeah.
He won't be, because every other person, for the president, every other person is a cogs in the wheel. Exactly. The president is the wheel. Every other person runs around the president. Yeah?
No, right now, any individual you try to bring as an individual within such a broken system, you know, if they are honest with them, they'll tell you immediately how frustrating their job is. Either they'll be co-opted, or they'll be frustrated into irrelevance, or probably they get kicked out. Yeah. But at some point, if your motive for entering the government is to effect changes on the ground, you are not going to get. So, I mean,
wow, interesting. Now, I have two more topics that I want us to touch before we go. I know we are exhausting time, technical team. Sorry about that. But migration. You know, this year we have seen a lot of young people dying in the sea. Just a few weeks ago, we did a story in Brufut, Kartong and Jambur. Over 50 young Gambians. Before that, it was in Nyomi, LRR. Before that, it was in Bakau. And all of this, in fact, these last ones, I've not even had a release from the government just to even acknowledge these things. Because these are young Gambians in any country. Even if one or two people die, you know, that calls for a national concentration. I saw the national dialogue on migration. I think I saw it today. I mean, I just got to see it. As even a media person, I didn't know about this. But is that how we dialogue when it comes to migration issues? What should be the step to curb this? Because all of these things they have been saying, fisheries sector is not working, agriculture is not working, the economy is not working for all of us, the ordinary Gambians. How do you expect the young people to stay in this country if all of these things are broken?
Yeah, I remember tweeting about this when I heard about the Jambur tragedy. Because obviously government cannot provide everything, but government is supposed to be the engine or the platform that allows development and growth. If you look at this country, is ridiculously expensive. Okay. Sometimes even people coming from England or America, it is very, you're talking about 150 $2 per day.
Yeah.
But the same time as well, you know, easily spending 10,000-15,000 a day or something like it is almost normal. If you have to provide certain stuff, because things are expensive. You know, you go to the ATM and withdraw 6,000, and you want to fill your tank, petrol. By the time you're giving change, it is insignificant. Okay, and you know, maybe that the fuel will consume 4,000 or something thereabout. So whatever remains there, you do this, do that, that's gone. You go to the ATM again, maybe 4 hours later, withdraw another 6,000. It finishes. You know, you're on your way home. You have to buy nappies and food and other thing for the kids. You know, you're using the ATM 2-3 times a day. So the point I'm making, that even people who perhaps have privileged jobs, it is expensive for everybody. Of course. When we now look at the youth demography, that constituency, you have people who've graduated. They are medical researchers. They are civil servants. They work this department or that. And when they are paid at the end of the month, it can barely sustain them. So now this teenager who has just finished secondary school or senior secondary was, and they see how their elder siblings are struggling. These are people who've gone to university, studied for 4 or 5 years, and they're very, very bright in school. And they see how they're struggling to, you come and even ask, they say, why attire, and your brother who's going to university is on political science or something else is struggling. And you look at your own prospects, and you live in an environment, in a society where your opportunities are seriously limited. You are excluded from almost every sector. So it's almost like by default or by design, you feel that you are entirely excluded. So you are rendered to total hopelessness. And then probably your dad has worked as a police officer or a teacher for 40 years and doesn't even own a car. Okay, or has been building the extension to the house for the last 7 years, cannot even finish that. But then the other guy from the other side of the street who traveled to England or Germany or Spain or through the parkway is now building something. Okay, he's built for his mom, he's now building something for himself. The dynamics couldn't be more different, and the contrast. So in a way, because of the hopelessness of this situation that the youth find themselves, the inadequacy of the opportunities that government can provide for them. So in a way, it looks like the phenomenon now is that there has to be an alternative. And the viable alternative now is to seek greener pastures, albeit that is fraught with risk and danger. But for the youth, when all hope is lost, then those are extraordinary times and moments, and then it triggers something. So whatever risk the risk associated with the parkway, for these people, for most of the youth, and I'm sympathetic to them. Okay, Europe and America, it's difficult and everything, I understand, but somebody who is hungry and starving, and sometimes it's very easy for the elite not in terms of our background, but elite in terms of, I am a lawyer. I can probably afford to drive a fairly expensive car. Okay, I can probably afford to travel around the world and send my kids to probably the best schools in this country. So it is convenient for me sometimes to condemn those individuals. Okay, but for some of that youth, the odds are really stacked against them. Okay, in as much as we are not promoting or advocating that we have to embark on this really difficult, dangerous, deadly journey, but is that when all hope is lost, and the idea that this country has systems in terms of development, whatever it is, that can actually even give them a decent, even the basic bare minimum, then they'll have to opt to go to Spain or Italy or something like that. The current deaths, especially because of the change in weather, the high season, the waters are rougher. The deaths are a national tragedy. It's not a national in terms of a national security issue, some people may say, but definitely it's a national crisis. Therefore, there is an obligation on the government to actually intervene in this matter and find real practical solutions, because our youth are dying in large numbers. It's very it is very disheartening to see, and I think the OIM, the Organization for Migrants, I think they're doing a fantastic job. I see a lot of stuff, even the returnees. More recently, I think I saw on the papers that people who were stranded in Libya or somewhere who they returned. But whatever it is, I think government has to be involved. This is a serious crisis confronting our future, because it is like we are losing our youth through this journey. So therefore, this is no longer private family individual, it is now a national crisis. And therefore, since it's a national crisis, it requires the deliberate intervention of government to find solutions. So government has to be, we have to, whether they're going to set up, what something has to happen, we have to look at this. We have to find solutions. We have to look at what we can do to empower the youth. Some of the youth that go through the back way as well, these are laborers and builders and other things as well. You know, they go and do by day or whatever they do, and they get paid 300 a day. 300 is hardly anything now. So again, they work from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. But what they get, if they buy attire out of it and cigarette or whatever else, there's not even enough for you to have something the following day. So it's like, you know, yes. So
is the national dialogue the way forward? I saw the national dialogue on migration started today. Is that the right step to just look at this thing holistically?
Well, it's a step in the right direction in the sense that first, to solve any problem, you have to acknowledge it exists. So I suppose if you're having a national dialogue on a particular problem, you are acknowledging its existence. But I hope that we will go seriously beyond that, because all of statistics he listed here. If you, for them to, some of the people, not everyone going is actually these laborers. You have some people who actually have jobs and then they're leaving. Some, people will tell you about police officers. People from the army going. So these are people who, under normal circumstances, we would say, they have a secure salary job. So what are they going to be doing, taking these risky jobs? Because even those salaries amount to nothing, what they are getting. So national dialogue, yes, it's useful. It's a useful first step. But at a fundamental level, a migration problem is an economic crisis. If people are leaving not to go and do something for any other sector, it's just they are looking for better economic prospects. And now, even if your country is doing excellent, there will be some who would leave. But the rate at which we are seeing here is so huge, because and this effect he's talked about, it's this positive feedback loop, because the more limited opportunities you have here, and the more you see some peers who have managed to go and they send pictures of you how nice they are living, and they all of a sudden start building their compound, the more you feel like if you don't go, you are going to be a failure. So it has this positive snowballing effect. But at the fundamental level, it's just the lack of opportunities, and which means again at the fundamental economic level, what is the economy is, the growth is anemic. Even if the government is going at a certain level, it's not creating jobs. You need to have an economy where young, ambitious people, and any one of these youth who's risking their life going, you can accuse them of anything. But one thing is, lack of ambition is not one of them. They want to go better their lives, their family's life. That's why they are taking this risk. It's not an easy thing. It's not a vacation trip. These are ambitious people. And I believe if the opportunities are here, you're not going to cut the migration to zero, but you can stem it significantly and bring it to normal levels where it is just like migration in other countries. But you need to have, the problems we are talking about, investments in the economy, realizing why people have no hope in the economy here. Because when they look around them and look, to think about the future, they just don't see hope. That's why they are going. So beyond this dialogue, I don't think it's strictly needed. A dialogue is needed here. But like I said, it doesn't hurt for there to be a national acknowledgement of it. But you don't need this national dialogue to realize what the problem is, to address the lack of investments that we are having, and basically have an economy that works for people as opposed to a few connected people.
And two things are fundamentally keeping people in their country. One is genuine economic improvement, and another is hope. Hope is very important. Limited as it is. If you don't have food today, you have hope you will have food tomorrow. You stay. Hope. People don't leave until the second one is not there. They just don't leave because there is nothing. They also just leave because there is no hope for anything.
And they don't see hope on the horizon.
Yes. So two things.
And sorry to cut you, but even at that level,
There is no hope. Yeah.
they're looking beyond the horizon
Yeah.
in terms of economic prospects, in terms of political stability. I'm not talking about civil disintegration, but they're looking at everything, what is happening around us, and they know not next
The
5-10 years.
prospects are
If anything, it's going to get dire, more dire. So, and
I
therefore,
speak to a lot of people, and just even in the course of your work, and not just me, any other journalist perhaps, even in the course of your work, you speak to a lot of people, and you tell them for corruption matters. You talk to anybody and say, no, Gambia ta falina.
Yes.
And you tell them, even if we change the president, Gambia ta falina. Politico nganyu mako nyadi.
Yep.
So even that tells you
mentality,
people have grown desensitized to most of the things now, and what that does is that society descends into a level where everything becomes self-interest. This country, you have to fend for yourself, and it gets to that level. I mean, you could imagine. I mean, myself, what you said, I thought about it. At some point, 61 people died. Young people in one boat crash. 61 people. Government. Barrow was on Facebook sending condolences to Prince or King who died in
Kuwait.
Arabia.
Yeah, Kuwait.
And he hasn't even talked about this. 61 people died.
very, very, very large number.
In one boat
Not
crash.
even a press
It was
statement.
a disaster. It was a even Senegal, when there was that crash at night, when there was that boat crash at night,
everything stopped.
not only that, even Barrow sent condolences.
Okay,
Yeah, even Barrow sent condolences.
All we've been hearing from him is like basically just chiding this. Don't go as if the question
He
is.
said they have jobs from Saudi though.
No, but again, that's part of the problems. That's also part of the systematic failures that this country has. So you have to fix. Like, I'll give you a few dire examples. I mean, one of the things that sticks with me since 2015 was when there was this, I think something called either Yaya Jango or somebody. There was these guys who did a study for UNDP. They were calling it Multidimensional Poverty and Inclusive Growth Report 2015. And they were looking at different statistics, different areas. And part of the things they said was that, like in terms of urban-rural poverty gap, 73%. So, for example, a child born in Salekene is 3 times almost likely to be poor, lacking opportunities than a child born in Combo. We are not also talking about the general poverty. Now, things are so bad in Combo, but that's not what we're talking about. We're saying it's 3 times worse in Salekenya, for example, than Combo. That's how dire the situation is. Now, you have rural areas feeding a lot of figures into this migration. And so it's directly linked to all these sectors we are talking about. Agriculture, for example. I mean, look at it. There was an incredible decline. Even agriculture, when they said agriculture, what comes to your mind? Peanuts. Peanuts. Yeah? But even peanuts, there is incredible decline in peanut production. I mean, in terms of we don't need government to tell us that statistics. I come from a family that farms. I come from a community that farms. So I know the peanut stuff at the time and now, right? So these things change, and unless we fix the economy, these things will not be fixed. Will just be, so you can, you wonder why in 2023 December you are having a policy dialogue on migration. Young people have been dying for decades.
For the past decade.
For the past decade and more.
Talking about dying. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And you could have had a specialized policy issues targeting this. And they say, no, we are having TVET. You have in TVET, okay, you go and teach young people how to be carpenters and all of that. But then, do you give them startup capitals? You wouldn't. But even if you do, there are certain fundamental things that are incredibly underpinning this despair. And part of it is people are hungry. If food is expensive, the economic fundamentals have not changed, the productive basics. In other words, your economy is not supported by any real, your money, your everything is not supported by any real economy. You will continue to be poor, because even when people have money will be not useful. Yeah, you see, so the bottom line is, I mean, I think economists will have to be the ones to save it, you know, and the economy has to change. I mean, if that does not exist, I mean, we haven't to cultivate more rice, we have to have more fruits, we have to have more stuff, so that at least in the first place, before we just let's eat first, and then we think about other things. Huh?
Talking about people dying, I think I just want us to look at, you know, just 3 minutes, the AKI. In 2023, one of the biggest things that really hit us was the AKI outbreak. I know we cannot talk about the details of the incident because it's still in court, but do you think the way it has been handled will prevent us from a repeat of what happened? You know, from government, pharmacies, because obviously they have dissolved the pharmacy council, they have a new council there, and do you think, generally?
The pharmacy council?
No, it's the medical board. They changed the medical board, right? Yeah. Because they are the custodian, they're the ones who are supposed to look at all
MCA. Oh, they fired only 2 people for MCA.
They fired only 2 people.
Yeah, that is no, they've changed Marquis. Yeah, Marquis is the executive secretary. Yeah. Marquis' deputy is this guy, Fatoumata Jasso. Yeah. But Fatoumata Jasso's term expires before she was fired. In other words, she didn't have to be pushed. Yeah. She's already going down. Yeah.
But do you think
the sacking had no...
Do you think the way it's handled can give us hope that this incident will not occur?
No, not really. We've done a story on this that didn't come out yet. But the bottom line is that AKI was created by government. Government, Medicine Control Agency, Pharmacy Council, and their inefficiency, and the Ministry of Health. They caused the AKI. And they caused the death of the children. And they compensated their inefficiency with a denial. And that's what caused the much bigger problem. If there is time, I could explain this in a more expansive. Yeah, because I've looked into this for over a year. Mm-hmm. Now, the medicine, the way the medicine came, which we all read was illegally imported. Mm-hmm. We all read that already. The state investigation said the medicine was illegally imported. Yeah. Because it didn't go through certain filters institutionally. I mean, it was not registered. And basically what registration means is that if you are bringing a product into the Gambia, let's say this product, so you're supposed to register it, meaning you're supposed to bring a certificate of analysis, which basically brings all the ingredients and the lab, all the ingredients that are contained in this product. And you're supposed to, the certificate of analysis is supposed to come from the regulatory body of the exporting country. You see, the people who drafted the Medicine Control Agency Act are not stupid. They knew we didn't have a lab. So the issue of, well, there is no lab does not arise. The people who drafted it, they knew there was no lab. And don't tell us what is not there. It's not there. Already, we know there is no lab. So that is why they said, okay, let's make it a compulsory for registration to happen. So that if you are bringing a product, you bring in a certificate of analysis from the regulatory body of the exporting country. Say, for example, India. So these products would have come with the certificate of analysis from the regulatory, but from India's regulatory body certifying this product is good for use. If there is a problem, where would you go? You would have hold India by the hand and say there is a problem with this. You say it's safe for use. And also, India would not, if India is certifying a product, they would be more careful. Yeah, because it's a state. And they would have carried some burden of liability if the product is found to be faulty, right? But when we said, AKI, this product is, maiden product is bad, what did India say? They said, we have no problem. Gambia should have tested this themselves. We had no burden here. Because yes, they have no burden here. Of course, India has certain, at a greater level, India has certain legal burden, but it would have been much stronger if the certificate of analysis comes from the regulatory body. And so the lack of registration exposed the population. And this was deliberate denial, deliberate refusal to implement the law because the law said it must be registered. That's what the law said. Yes, now, so the safety valve that was there was removed by the MCA. Why? Because to understand it, you have to understand what Fatou Jasso said. Fatou Jasso said what? We are partners. Who and who are partners? I am a regulator. I am a partner with the importer. We are partners. You bring your technical, I bring my technical expertise. This is our words.
Yes.
We bring our technical
Yes.
expertise. They bring their money.
Money.
So we work together. How can a regulator and the businessman be partners? That's where you have the first problem.
That's why.
That means you dilute the process and then bad products comes in. Because in the end, also, registration cost how much? $300. They created this system called listing. How much does that cost? $20. So in the end, it's the bottom line. It's the profit that killed children. They diluted the system to make more profit for the importers, who are themselves, because we are partners.
So going forward,
For profit. So government created that problem. And when that happened, people said, and they said, the minister wrote to them and said, now, you have to dismantle all this conflict of interest issues. When they dismantled it, they went to the president in November. And the president said, this is a democracy. I said, no.
He said what?
President said, this is a democracy. So people, there has to be, how did he put it? He said, State House published this on their Facebook. They said, the president said, there has to be, what do you people say? Presumption of innocence.
Yes, until,
And so this is a democracy because the state investigation was not done at that time. So there has to be presumption of innocence. So they can go ahead and do as they please. And that still holds.
That still holds.
Yeah, so it's government that, so that's why I said that the government was one that killed the children. And of course you can go into how much the Ministry of Health and all those played in. So the bottom line is, Fatou, all these things we are talking about, whether what he has talked about the economy, people know these things. We're not talking about anything special. People know this. They're not doing it because people are corrupt. Right things are just not being done here. Because people are corrupt and they won't change. No, it won't change.
Wow. And finally, it won't change legal. I mean, we ourselves, it has not been a good year with the police. With a lot of Abdullah himself was tear gassed. And we had to go back and forth.
I actually complained why the Bar Association didn't issue a statement. Some people took issues with it.
We were there at the Twitter.
I was so pissed.
That was crazy. But a lot of things happened in 2023. Remember when the president said after the election that Kolbe Falinale, Bafala IGI, Nyinga, and even when he came this year, he said at the Toho, Niamola Belo revoked, be arrested. Just few days after that, we saw Bora's bail was revoked. I mean, we tested the courts, and obviously, he won. He's not been paid. We just want to make it clear. He has not been paid a dime up to now. His phone has not been, even after a court order that the court said give him his phone, the IG has refused.
I mean, still now?
Still now, they haven't given him his phone. They haven't paid him a dime. That is the country we live in right now.
So forget
So how can we live in a country like this? If me, the ordinary poor Gambian, violate the law, they take me to court, to police cells, keep me there for more than even 7 days. But even if a court gives us, this is what is happening in Senegal now.
But the High Court for that matter.
A High Court. This is not even a magistrate. A High Court judge gives an order, and nobody listens to him. Nobody says or does anything. And this is what is happening. What are we transitioning into?
Yeah, but the Bora case, in terms of not complying with the order of the court, started with the global homes and the Nene Frida under, because multiple times the court made several orders. Do this, the government fails to do it. Don't do that, the government does the opposite. It actually resulted in the judge actually ordering for the, maybe on the application by the affected party, but the IGP was summoned. But I mean, he appeared before a judge, on a potential contempt or someone. But he came. I think the judge was grateful that at least the IGP was polite enough to answer the court. But more fundamentally, I know the state has a terrible record of actually complying with court orders. But government ought to do better. It also depends, again, like Mustapha was saying, it depends on the individuals and depends on the system. I remember having a conversation with Uncle Bibi Darboe, about 3 years ago, and he made a remark. He said there was a Spanish company that had a contract with Gambia government. This is during Jawara's time. And the contract, I think, was prematurely terminated, something along those lines. But anyway, this person went to London, I think, Court of Arbitration, and findings, awards were made against Gambia government. So I think he said he traveled to Spain or somewhere and happened to speak to this individual or another individual who said, you know, there was an award against Gambia, but Gambia hasn't actually paid, effectively not complied with the order. So he said when he came back, he had a conversation with Sadauda and explained, and Sadauda advised him, what should we do? And he said, well, we are a rule of law country, and we need to, one of the clear manifestations of rule of law is complying with law, just therefore adhering to the rule of law. And Sadauda said, we will do, and the government, well, whether they did, but that was Sadauda's, that they will do the right thing. So the reason why I'm giving this anecdote is to give you the idea of the rule of law and respect for courts. Lately, particularly in relation to arrests and detentions beyond 72 hours, especially by the police, I think is very, very, very terribly worrying, because it shows the lack of respect for the Constitution, lack of respect for human rights, and what it pains is that the police or the IGP is doing as he wishes. You know, when an individual is arrested and the law is saying that 72 hours, either you release or charge, you do one or the other. So in terms of Bora, this is not the first time, but in terms of the, again, and other things as well, in terms of the money, it's highly unlikely, because us in the system know it's highly unlikely. Again, it demonstrates government's bad faith. But I want to come to one thing. One of the landmark decisions of 2023 is the MC Cham judgment at the Supreme Court, challenging the Bamfo Commission inquiry findings into PPP ex-ministers.
20-something years.
Yeah.
7 years.
But you know, hats off to Alhaji MC Cham and lawyer Darboe for persistently fighting this case from the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, all these years. And the court decision more recently, I think it's about 6-7 weeks ago, when the court held that the commission was improperly constituted, i.e. the commission chairman did not satisfy the requirements, because, for example, is that to be a commission chair, you have to hold, like, for example, you have to be qualified to be a judge first. Okay, you have to be qualified to be a judge and at the time, I think the minimum was 7 years or something. Now I think it's a little bit less. But anyway, the chair to this commission did not satisfy those requirements, so therefore was not qualified to be a judge in the Gambia, but was made a chair to a commission. So the Supreme Court held that because that anomaly, the commission was improperly constituted, and therefore it was set aside. So we can say, but by the decision of the Supreme Court, the Bamfo Commission never existed effectively, because they've set aside, well, not obviously, but they set aside the decision. So the implication of that is, although the decision was only concerned Alhaji MC Cham, but what about all the other ministers? By implication, they are all affected by that. So again, this is going to test government's good faith. So so far, I don't think they've come with a position. Maybe they're still lingering over what the next steps are going to be. But ordinarily, all the others are affected. They are not part of the recent proceedings, but they are affected because the decision covers all of them. Because that means the decision against them cease to exist. So for government, I think they need to communicate and tell the court. And I think the period, so far as I know, the period for, because this is the Supreme Court, you cannot challenge the decision, but you can ask for a review. And as far as I am aware, I think the period for doing so is 15 days, and that lapsed. And I'm not aware that they've sought for review. So at the moment, I've not had anything in relation to the others. So what are they going to do? If they're going to demonstrate that there is respect for the courts and obeying court orders, therefore, there has to be something to tell the people that we take this in good faith and we will comply. And therefore, we will either set up a task force to look into how all the other people have been affected and see how to remedy
I
this
hope
situation.
not another commission again. At some point we will drown in commission.
That will bring commission. But finally, I know we have elapsed all of time. Abdoulaye, what do you expect to see in 2024, especially in our judicial system? What do you expect to see? What direction do you think we should take going into 2024?
Well, some of these things also will depend on some of the challenges that we are faced with at a particular time. There's been some impressive decisions in 2023. I cannot think on top of my head, but again, there are still serious perennial problems that we are confronted with. Serious backlog of cases. Cases take ridiculously long time. You go to court, it takes you 4, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years before there is judgment. For example, there is judgment, but to now even enforce that judgment becomes another problem. So there are underlying problems. Yes, significant improvements have been made. There is the independence of the judiciary, but I think some of these are more underlying structural, administrative, but they are serious challenges nonetheless, because the longer these things take, people begin to lose hope in the administration of especially the speedy dispensation of justice. So I am hoping, but there are, I think the judiciary recently, a strategy document. Dr. Gajigo will say again, government decisions are very good with strategic documents, but that's the thing. But there are other things as well in terms of the change to the civil procedure. There are certain processes to try and make the system more efficient, but there are strong or serious perennial problems that really affect. You go to some of the magistrates' courts. So you go to court and even sue somebody for $5,000, individual who don't involve lawyers, and sometimes it would take you a year or so before you are. Before in the end you don't even give up. In the end, the case is not even decided, because you come so many times, you go to court, adjournment upon adjournment upon adjournment upon adjournment. So if you're a small petty trader, in the end you're like, by actually going to Bundung or Brikama court every 2 or 3 weeks, you're actually losing more money. So in the end you lose hope, and the case just kind of disappears in thin air. So there are those problems. Again, there are several improvements. There are more and more judges being employed, the Gambianization of the judiciary, and more magistrates are employed as well. So there are serious areas of improvement, commendable, but also there are so many underlying structural problems that seriously impede progress of cases and enforcement.
But I think the improvements pale in comparison with the problems we have.
Finally, Dr. Gajigo, what do you going into 2020? I know you are not happy with the budget, so I don't know. But going into 2024, what do you seek to see from our Ministry of Finance as to policy direction when it comes to, reducing inflation.
If an economist is not happy with the budget, what do you want him to be happy with?
I don't even know how to. I'm even struggling. That's why I'm even struggling to put the question. Because I already know what he's saying. Well, what do we need to do though to improve?
The budget we've been discussing is 2024. So that means 2024 has been baked. It's already been decided. So what the government has decided in 2024, how they are going to allocate their resources in the middle sector. So the fact that we are complaining about lack of investment in agriculture, in other words, we already know how agriculture would be next year based on the budget this year. The only thing that we don't know is whether there will be drought or abundant rainfall or not. That will be, so only the natural part is unknown. But as for the natural part, if the government is going to have a serious direction in agriculture, in infrastructure, in productive sector, that would be reflected in the budget of 2024. The fact that we have things without any clear, we don't have things prioritized in a way that is consistent with development, means that already we have an idea of 2024, and it doesn't look very good. I mean.
But can I just ask you a question? In the last 3 years or so, we've seen this supplementary budget interventions become very commonplace.
Yes.
Is that a good thing in economics?
No, it's not. In fact, this is one of the things that IMF, World Bank, and other development partners have pointed out. This is called budget indiscipline. Means in fact, I mentioned this in one of my articles. Sometimes it's almost pointless talking about the Gambian budget, because what the government say they are going to do, they change it so much so that at the end of the year, what is actually done and what they say they are going to do is different, because they have a lot of this supplementary budget, which actually means significant changing of what they say they are going to do. So we have all of these pompous ceremonies about budget speech that goes on forever, very ceremonious, event at the National Assembly. But if you are not going to stick to that,
they never stick to it.
Yeah, there's always a supplementary budget, and at the end of the day, that supplementary budget almost always ends up in a very significant. To have a good practice is to have like these medium-term expenditure plans where there is some sort of predictability and consistency, because you have sector strategies, like agricultural strategy, education, health. These are like on a 5-year thing, just like the whole national development plan is on a certain thing, and you have a plan, then you have this your prioritization and investment based on those plans. But if as you go every now and then you are changing, there is no rhyme and reason here. It defeats the whole purpose of having a plan. So the problem with the budget is so many levels, but that is one of the bigger problems of it. And this is something that, if you look at like the IMF report for the Gambia, this is consistently mentioned. It's been mentioned almost every Article 4 that is written by IMF, which they do for the Gambia every two years, where they go in depth and raise issues. This is always mentioned there. But that supplementary budget thing is a bad sign. The fact that it happens consistently.
And the sums are always huge.
Huge, relative to total budget.
And sometimes also they initiate new projects.
Yeah.
So mostly for roads.
Exactly.
So the president would go on it too and say, I'll build that.
Yeah. The reason is when
those changes are, and the next year they build.
Those changes normally are done for political reasons rather than part of a development plan. Because
and then you have to catch up for the following year. Then the GRA has to now generate more.
Exactly. Yes. Because once
GRA's generation also, they add these salaries and all these things.
No, what I mean is when because I'm guessing that will have aftershocks.
Absolutely.
So because of that
you
now
have to correct for it later.
You have to correct. You have to.
Yeah.
So it's more like this short-termism to take care of this now, and I mean the following year. Then now there is this burden on GRA to generate income to now deal with some of this.
GRA would have, even if they
ask us to pay more.
Even if they don't ask you to pay more by increasing tax rate, that means the few taxpayers who can't run or hide or close their businesses, they are squeezed even more. Tax become a punitive thing because GRA will be hounded by the Ministry of Finance. Say, listen, we need to get the your domestic resource, your revenue collection needs to be at a certain level. We need to catch up. But I think a big part, the last part that you talked about, this court thing, I think, you cannot overemphasize it. Having judicial decisions being ignored by the government, it is also, you talked about it in great detail, but I think one of the things we also have to talk about is the failure of our judiciary, where there has been no judicial reform. The only thing that anyone can say, and which is you mentioned, is Gambianization, but that should not be a goal. Let's say we need X number of judges or magistrates, but all of them, we cannot find many in Gambia. Just saying for the sake of argument. There's nothing wrong with if you can get some from Sierra Leone, as long as at the end of the day, when they preside over cases, they adjudicate them fairly and according to law, and their decisions are respected. I would rather get a foreign judge who is fair and competent than a Gambian judge who is a political puppet. So, for me, Gambianization is fine as far as it goes, but what is important is having a judicial system that works, where people have confidence in the laws. But when you have a situation like this, there is no reform, and the judges' judgment by a high court are ignored by the government, no consequence, and we have our chief of judiciary being around and who hasn't done anything. We have a failure not only at the executive, which we talk about, but a lot of time what we don't talk about is failure at the judiciary. Our head of judiciary hasn't delivered. It's been a major disappointment, and we need to talk about this.
They don't even have websites.
I think there's a website.
No, it's not properly handled. You see, I was about to cover a case.
Yeah.
So you know the Ousman Sonko the Ousman Sonko trial.
Yes.
So I just made an application that I want to cover this trial to get an accreditation in a court. The court. And they sent me an accreditation. And they told me also, you can seek the indictment. I sought the indictment and they sent it to me. All the witnesses that are supposed to be, every detail about the trial, the charges against Sonko, everything. They send you all of it.
In Senegal?
In Switzerland. In other countries, judicial system is so efficient and things are so effortlessly done that you people don't even have a proper seat in your courtroom. Bakirin is always complaining. You are sometimes, in fact, one time I was in his court and somebody comes and he said, look, the burden of seats for you, he was telling a lawyer, the burden of seats for you or any other person in this courtroom is not on me, it's on the judiciary. Go to them. I was in the court that day. People are always complaining. Even the mics. Those things don't cost any money. Mic, proper mic.
But you'll be so okay. I'm not going to be.
Even in the courtroom, proper seats like the kind of.
I'm not going to be a lawyer for the judiciary. Obviously, I admit there are serious challenges that we deal with day in. Okay, that simple stuff, not even big deal.
Things.
But again, there are certain constraints as well that are not. For example, I know 3 years ago, the budget by the judiciary's budget was significantly slashed. By Parliament. Okay, so and I know another issue, cash power. Okay, that I can tell you. You go to most of these courts. You go to Brikama Court, for example. You go to Banjul Magistrates Court. You go to Bundung Court. Generally, when you get to the last 10 days of the month, there is cash power shortage issue. But because also you have to understand, maybe the budget that was allocated in 1995 is not terribly different from the budget in terms of some of those things in 2023, when maybe in 1995 there were only
one AC maybe.
You know what I mean? There were only the number of courts. Number of courts could be counted with one hand, but they have multiplied, threefold. So you have to take some of those things into
you know what doubts me?
Account.
Why is for Parliament they make sure they are well taken care of. The National Assembly, all of them. They made so there is no doubt about them being taken care of, and they made a point to make it to us. But the judiciary, the court is not looked at as an office for the judge.
The court is an office, you know.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's where the judge does his job.
No, judiciary is one of the most important sectors.
No, not just that. It's an office also.
No, I understand.
So this office has no proper seat. Some judges, when they sit, you see them struggling to sit properly. There is no AC in the office. The desk are dilapidated. It's one of those.
If you, but let me also let me also say, if you also understand the budgetary constraints of the judiciary, you will almost feel sorry for the judiciary.
On us, that's on the CJ. That's why he's talking about.
The point I'm making is, I know, well, not I know, but judiciary, unlike some of the other men, they have to prepare independent and deal with the finance and do their bilaterals and all the rest of it, go to parliament. So, but if the judiciary needs $90 million is for 2024, and this is based on a proper calculation of the estimates, and that is what is submitted, 90 million. But 90 million is not even what is required. Maybe 120 million is what is needed to function at maybe 95%. That 90 million is only to allow the judiciary to function at maybe 80-85%. At least that is, reasonable enough. But then when that goes to Parliament, and Parliament slashes that to 57, for example, I understand, and I'm not being a lawyer for the judiciary, but when it comes to certain issues, non-administrative, for example, you go to court and the clerk is absent because she's gone to a courier, stuff like that. But when it comes to desk and furniture and stuff like that, we get, sometimes you get, and you see on the AC, other things, printers provided by the UNDP and others. But for example, that 57 is now probably only accounting for maybe just over 50% or 60% of what, and salaries and other things as well. So then you now find that practically judiciary is given money that is only allowing it to just breathe. So there are several. So I think it is important, and I think it is important for finance and the National Assembly to realize, because, and these are the same people who also complain that the cases take forever. But if we want that, then the money that the judiciary requires, but at the same time as well, I think it will be hypocritical on me to say, for example, everything is hunky-dory, because there are serious backlog and other cases that do not necessarily mean massive investment of money. Some of these things are just people doing the right things. Okay.
Even I think a court should have a simple basic thing. A court should have a website, and judgments can be uploaded in those websites. Like if a court enters judgment, journalists don't have 6 records, go there, ask all the time, and I want a copy of this judgment. That judgment could be on website. It's a simple thing. That's not too much to ask. A proper simple website where even judge's profile is there.
But the judiciary they have. Maybe it's not very much.
A functioning website is not there. I mean, no, don't make me start this. The judiciary is terrible. Every other place, even Parliament is better.
It seems like we come Mustapha Darboe Gambia Bulo.
Abulu katiri ngola men kende. Fa katide. Andu fo ay kati. Bara fa katide. Na man katate fix. Ani akende ata katide ngola kende ata. Fa katide.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We are not able to exhaust everything, but at least we have looked at major stuff that happened in 2023. I hope going forward into 2024, we can see changes in some of these areas. Just like you said, justice is very important. Some people are lying a mile too. For just stealing $5,000. But because they are not able to have a day in court, they're still there. Those kind of stuff are really crazy. And it's because...
Or even weed. Why should anybody go to jail for weed?
For weed, and they're there. Somebody cannot just...
It's not your business. That's not state's business.
And this is our last show for 2023. By next week, it's going to be 2024. Happy New Year in advance to you all. If I don't see you.
Same to you.
To our esteemed followers, thank you very much for always staying tuned to our show. We thank you all, and see you all next week. And in 2024, hopefully, we'll be back here again in one piece. And thank you very much to the technical team and you all. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Bye-bye.
Airport Residency Estate is a gated community located in Old Yundum, proudly developed by Swami India, perfect for all looking for a quiet life with luxury amenities within an enclosed setting. When talking about the benefits of living in a gated community, safety and security is top on the list. They allow extra privacy, take away the hustle of unwelcome solicitors, and create a safe haven for children to play in a trusted environment without traffic or speedy vehicles. A great sense of community develops through the meeting at a controlled communal leisure facilities, offering an integrated lifestyle. A green environment and well-managed communal areas are keys to higher home standards, elevated quality of life, and better property value should you consider home reinvestment in the future. Added to all is the location, just next to the airport and reconstructed main road, yet tucked in the tranquility of nature. Our purpose is one: your satisfaction. Contact us. Let us help you build your dream home in the Gambia.
yiriwa men kafutan na tarambulolu to nga GIA cargo complex parendile pour que julaya sone yandi kadungoni mfunti bundana doko sembentu ya Banjul International Airport to men si nyafa si moluma melka fengolu ki bantala bankolu kan anin julandingolu fana foysi sulan na cargo doko le bang katu masingolu bembulule ikafo meye forklifts melka selendiro ni jindiro ke bagasolu la melbe funti kan waranto ka dunnan na warehouse lu kono nga dinkira sumayari ngolu fana sotole ifula milla fano mu metari kemeleti karo bela adun isi cargo bagasolu tano men sita fo ton tan woro ila sumaya fana futata tembeleto men ka fendolu mabono fo ikana tinya fo sene fengol lombang domori fengolu waranto jata kende ani bori ma fengolu kago bagasolu la taradu kendo asulota jamani la tirangolu double view x-ray korosir la masingolu aka kago bagaso kono jubele komi kago doko sartolu ya landi nyameng nyin double view x-ray amu jamani labang rapid scanaleti menka karafula korosiro keno kago sifa bela wati kilngo kono to na doku lalo imu ayata karandingol leti miliyela doku no iframansata kago doku na tamandiri nyato na doku la betea wayem futandi RA3 makamoleto mensa tinna fo nse kago bagaso lu kinole kata UK aning bankolu kan de ka hakeli tenko dila na dokuoto itenyin
There is a new opportunity to make sure our first impressions are always our best and to stabilities on them. To make goods and services more accessible and find freedom around us. We in proximity to active markets with rural air transport policy. That dilute is how we turn air opportunity for you. For all destination marketing support, customized packages for new existing airlines and operators, and for a highly ranked tourist destination, the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority is here to serve. We regulate air transport, operate and manage BIA technical requirements, merged with commercial considerations. We have experienced and well-trained aviation professionals to cater for your needs. For investment opportunities in building airport hotels, shopping malls, playground for children, do contact us on 4472-831, 4472-893. Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. We go beyond daily.